You like my Halloween transition? Welcome in, everybody. How's it going? Wait, why am I in the way of chat? Why am I so egotistical? I'm in the way of chat. How's it going? Yeah, my transition for Halloween is a bearded skeleton.
It's P.
It's P. That was so much louder than I thought it would be. Let me turn that down a little bit. It's P. Yeah, we're gonna keep the bearded skeleton redeemed for the whole of Halloween. It's gonna be great. Welcome in, Ginger. Welcome in, Death. How you doing? How you doing, Duff Leg? How you doing, Zyphon? Was that a girl? The greatest. Welcome in. How you all doing? I'm peeing. Dan, you were here. I almost said Dan, and I was like, wait. And then I saw you. Welcome in. So today we're gonna be playing a game I've played a billion times before. We're gonna be playing Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach again. Ah, Death Chan, I got you, Death. We're going to be doing Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach again, but this is the last time we're going to play it. I'm going to play it from the start to the finish, not necessarily in the stream, but I'm going to get through as much of it as I can. I'm going to get all the collectibles, I'm going to do all the extra junk, and then we're going to go through and we're going to do the same on Ruin after I'm done. So Sundays are going to be, hopefully, all month, it's just going to be Security Breach Sundays. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Cetia is currently busy with Sunday things, but he will be joining later on in the stream, although he has seen some of the game already. I love that you have fangs. Ah, thank you. You know, I haven't told anyone, well, I've told a couple of people about this, but for Halloween this year, every year, I come up with this big, dramatic Halloween costume idea, and I come up with it like 2 weeks before Halloween, and then I never follow through, because I don't have the time, money, or energy to put it all together, and then I end up not doing anything for Halloween except putting on a little bit of extra eyeliner. So this year, I made a great plan. This year, I bought a pair of plastic fangs. That's it. Just fangs that you, like, they mold to your real teeth, you stick them in, and I'm gonna be a gamer that got bitten by a vampire and is using their eternal life to slowly improve at gaming. That's my costume. You can't fuck it up. All I have to do is mold the fangs and then I'm done. If I don't dress that way for Halloween, then I'm so lazy it's not even worth thinking about. I hope you guys are doing good today. How's it going? How's your Sunday? I hope you're having a nice chilled out Sunday. I'm gonna switch game scenes. I hope I've got my audio stuff set up. I haven't checked yet. Okay, prepare for the skeleton transition. Okay, so I don't have the game up on the screen. That's a good start. Let's go. I've also got to turn back on Discord, so when it pops in, you guys will be here. Is Discord? Excuse me. All right. I love it. I'm glad it's from a movie that is free on YouTube called Goat Story. I actually wanted to watch it on stream. I'm not sure if I will be able to because there's some content in it that I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I can get away with. Not sure if I can get away with some of the content that they show in that movie. So it's a little inappropriate. I would like that's the thing. If I can't do a watch party on Twitch, then I'm doing a watch party in Discord, and like I refuse to not watch Goat Story on stream. It's too good. And if you are curious about it, Curtis Connor made a fantastic video about the movie and about the sequel. Okay, let me find this window. Just specific window. This one. Well, you're way too high up, aren't you? You're in front of everything. That's not how this is supposed to work. You go down here. Yeah, that's much better. Now shrink a little bit. There we go. Perfect. Guys, is it audible? I don't think it is. No. Grab that. So much for standing by. This. Okay, let me try adding. F9. It's F9, right? Too big. That's not what she said. I'm so sorry. Oh wait, it was Death that redeemed the chant. Fuck! You guys have two similar. One of you is gonna have to go home and change. Let me have a look. No, why you not work? Oh, is it because I didn't click on it? No. Okay, fine. For a while, we will do. Huh. Maybe instinct. Okay, we'll do desktop audio. We'll mute Discord so that there's not a double overlap of C tier. You might hear some. Yeah, you may hear some sound redeems doubled. I apologize for that. But I want people to hear the game. So. Let's also turn it up. I'm the stinky. How dare you? How dare you? Probably true. Oh my god, I forgot about everything in here. up so you guys can actually get there. So, wait. Are you serious? It was in Overwatch. That would be because somehow I accidentally muted my mic. I don't know how I did that. I'm not sure how any of this happened. But I appreciate all of you sticking around. So I'm assuming you can now hear the game. The sound alerts should be a lot quieter now, and Discord should still work when it joins me. I think the game audio is coming through. There's a game? No, we're just vibing tonight. This is a tech support stream. That's all this is. Okay. Well, let's see if this works. One more. Depends on if I want to hear the game or you. Don't worry, my goal is for it to be both. What do you mean, Game Doku? I'm working on it. Sailor, welcome in. How's it going? Okay, we're gonna jump into it. Oh, there was one other thing I meant to do. I'm gonna hide myself very quickly. I'm gonna be invisible. Deal with it. I will be invisible for a moment while I very quickly. I have a lighting setup that I can do. It's really cute. I found it today and I was so excited. Hold on. Invisible Mary. Let me get this thing up because I'm so excited. It's like it's like I'm sat in a room with the TV and you'll be able to see like all the lighting and stuff on my face. Yeah. This one. The future is now. It's okay. No, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. Okay, see? I'm sat in that room now. Look at how amazing this is. Look how cool. Ah! The spiders were synced on the wrong side of the screen. I'm sorry. Ah!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Fazbear Entertainment would like you to put your hands together for the one, the only, Freddy Fazbear.
Look how cool this is! Look at this! Ah! Enjoy your shower, Dan. I hope it goes well. Well, I hope you have a shower. Isn't this game the jump scare one? Oh, we got so many jump scares incoming. I love this game so much. I'm so cringe, but it's just so fun. This opening sequence is a mess, but I also love it. Like, I can't decide if it's cringe or amazing. Are you Freddy for Freddy? I'm never Freddy for Freddy. Amelia, welcome in! I'm doing good. How you doing? Wait, I don't think... Okay, go. Yeah, go follow Amelia if you do not already. Another lovely YouTuber. She has a lot of beauty content, a lot of other content. Strongly recommend. Check her out. How you doing today, Amelia? Oh no, he's broken! This is Piers Hawthorne's house. That's my headcanon. Yeah, this is just his basement. Okay, we're gonna have spooky lighting on stream. This is so much fun. Ah, the future is now. I like that it's giving. Wait, noisemakers? Oh, they mean the things that you can move around, like paint cans. I thought they meant like you can craft noisemakers and toss them around. I was like, wait, what? This game has changed since the last time I played. Everyone has pretty much agreed that Roxy's wife, we can't help it. She's just so cute. Nothing about this is safe mode. What do you mean? Right, let's see how well this performs.
Showtime already? I am
It's
experiencing a malfunction. The recharge cycle is not complete.
Shh. We're you shut up?
Who said that?
I did.
Points at anyone that knows what.
Down here.
Down where?
Because I can't remember.
I still do not see you.
Okay,
Is
listen.
it Tokyo Mew Mew?
You were sleeping.
Did I answer my
so
own question?
Open the stomach hatch and
I
climbed
can fix
inside.
her. We can all fix her
Stomach
together.
hatch. That place is reserved for oversized birthday cakes and pinatas.
Yeah, in
It
this
is not
edition,
a safe
Freddy
play
Fazbear is a
area.
good boy. Just in this one. Oh, we got some lag here. This is because of new model. Do I need to turn down the graphics, or is it just... Yeah, my mouse just wasn't on the screen. That's why it was like.
There you are.
Oh.
Scanning complete. How odd. Your guest profile is unknown to me.
Oh.
Who are you?
Gregory.
I'm
I'm
Gregory.
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 That's
I will
me.
notify the main office.
Everyone knows it's Gregory, but that's me.
Connection error. I cannot connect to the main network.
It's
When I
her.
very first used
She
this
cut
version
you
of Freddy,
off.
it's because
She's
of the
not going to
positive
let you call for help until
affirmation.
she finds
We
me.
all love being told that we're doing great. Why do you
Who
think I
is
have a way
looking
to
for
go
you?
superstar
Your
as one of
mother?
my sound.
I hear footsteps.
Ah!
Way to go,
Oh.
superstar. I knew you could do it. That is the security guard. She can help.
No, she can't.
No, I don't trust her.
Why not?
I don't trust
I know
that
she
hoe.
is, but she's trying to get me. Isn't there some other way for you to communicate with me
She
besides
can't be
talking
trusted.
so
I think I
loudly?
need to be a little bit.
Take this.
Go.
It is a novelty
I'm
Freddy
still
Fazbear
ironing
watch.
stuff out. There we go. Okay. Gimme. Open your stomach for me, baby. I'm sorry, I said. I'm sorry. Yeah! I remember watching a playthrough of this when it first came out and the sheer amount
I'm
of bugs.
sending you an encoded
Oh,
message.
Amelia, I bought it on release. Imagine being me. Imagine being me and buying it on release. Whew! There's a bug that for the longest time stopped me from completing it to 100%, and I can't wait to get to that point in the game now and see if it's still there. Oh yeah, I have to open my thing as well. Oh, my journal is in the way of my mouth. That explains a
I will
lot.
escort you to the main entrance. However, I am unable
I know
to
I had
leave
that like
this
on the middle of my desk before I started my stream.
There is a button on the wall that will open the door to the back room. I will make it accessible to you now.
Welcome in! Thank you so much for the follow. Hold on, I need to move chat so I can actually see the names of the people that come in and follow. Oh, I'm not gonna read that out, but welcome in. How you doing, Meg? How's it going? I hope you're having a good day. Right, am I pushing the button? Let's
Well
go.
done, Gregory. There is an opening
Oh,
vent
no,
inside
Gregory.
the maintenance room.
Gregory. I
You
know
will
it's
have to
sus, but
climb
you will
through
have
the
to vent.
ventilation system and release
Have
me
you
from
heard of the game
outside.
Among Us? Excuse me? Death, the backrooms in this game specifically are more likely than you think. It's just gonna bug out at some point or another. I wasn't on PC when it came out, and this was the only FNAF game I had interest in. Amelia! Based! That is 100% how I felt. I've never really liked the idea of just, like, sitting in a room and doing nothing and, like, just hitting buttons. That's always been kind of boring. But then I saw the PS4, I think, reveal trailers for this, and I was like, oh, holy smokes, this looks incredible. Like, a free roaming, full-on, like, actual map with, like, the FNAF characters. I'm down. And I fully followed the development for such a long time. As soon as it came out, I was just ready to go.
Everyone wants to be you. You are the
Hi,
best.
Roxy. Hi.
Thank you. I
Ah,
am
the
the
best.
best. I
Okay, let's
am
get
the
out.
best.
How many evil ones are there? That's the question. Are they evil, or are they being told to do evil things and are just, it's their programming for they? Oh, Meg, you can't ask me that. That's too. Okay. I'm gonna say burgers for one reason and one reason alone. Pizza is convenient. Pizza, like, you order pizza, it's delicious. It's amazing. But burgers are like you can have all of the ingredients of burgers, of pizza on a burger. So you could have tomato sauce, cheese. You could have pepperoni on your burger if you want. You can make anything. But there's also burger pizza that does. I stand by it. Burgers. Burgers were the main solution of the plot in the menu. And go for hockey. Hockey because I have seen amusement happen in specifically Fall Guys Party Animals hockey. I love the oars though. Soft or hard cookies. Am I allowed to say in the middle? Like chewy cookies that like bend and then break, but they're still a little bit crunchy. Chica's fucking rocking out. Look, let's go. Sports suck. What about esports? What do you mean sports suck? Would you believe that even though I'm a tiny person, I'm good at basketball? I'm I'm tiny, but I can dunk. Soft or hard? Okay. In a pinch. In a pinch, soft cookies. But that's because if I'm baking soft cookies, I can be like, oh no, I left them in the oven too long and they got a little bit chewy. Oops. I'm not sure how, I forgot that would happen. I really forgot that would happen. You know, I'm tall enough. I'm tall enough to party. I'm tall enough to get on all the rides at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. That's all we need to know. That's all I am. Okay. Aw. Girl, look at that body. Girl, look at that body. Imagine being in this is scary. Okay, but like, it is scary, but it's also just beautiful. Like, look at this. I love it. I love it here. Like, I want to live here for the rest of my life without being murdered, but I would still live here. She really does have incredible hair. No! Do not listen to Death Chan's propaganda. I'm not 3'4". Community of FNAF sure is weird and kind of cringy. Shut your mouth. We love Roxanne. Oh, but this place is just incredible. Like, it reminds me of, like, everything that things could have turned into. Like, we could have had more malls like this to this day if it hadn't, you know, gone wrong. 6'5"? Damn, you're tall! Let's go! How does it feel being able to reach things? I'm jealous. But then at the same time, I can just ask people like you to reach things for me. So it's kind of like, wait, has my chat not been, did I do the thing? Give me one moment. Where's the just... Oh yeah, I forgot about the fucking thing! Here we go. I thought chat was up, but apparently it's not. One more transition. What? No. Oh, why does it look like that? Why is that happening? Okay, I'm nearly done. I'm nearly done, I promise. Let's try 200. Let's see how that... No. Guys, wait. Stop chatting. You're gonna take up too much space. 200.
Can you fart so hard your balls explode?
Wait, chat was on the screen. Are you kidding me? I'm so stupid. I don't want to talk about it. So I'm between 5'10" and 6 foot, but I wish I was shorter. Ooh. Who invited this bearded skeleton? I did. You guys are so tall. Oh, chat wiped because I switched scenes. That makes so much sense. Oh my god, I'm scuffed. Oh my god. Okay, what does it say? Customer complaint. Paid for the Freddy Mega Deluxe Party Package. And, Freddy broke down as soon as he got up on stage. We have to pay him to have a table and sing her birthday. He was supposed to give her the cake. My daughter's birthday's been ruined. I demand a refund. You know what? That seems fair. I feel like there's Karens, but then also there's someone whose child has been traumatized by a giant animatronic breaking down in front of them at their birthday. Like, that would be scary as fuck. You know what? I think they should get a refund. It's fine. We can buffer in between rooms. I've lost track. It would be boring if I wasn't what did I say? I'm so sorry. You don't like your height? Oh, I'm sorry. I hope that you're able to feel more comfortable with your height.
Now, please come let me out.
I also want to be smaller across the board. I guess it is nice to be able to tuck myself into tiny spaces and hide. If you collect the bags and presents, you get a secret ending. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I can because the thing is, I'm happy to, I'm going for the ending where you stay in the mall. So any I miss, I can probably come back. But, yeah, I'm gonna do my best to try and remember those. The one I had the real issue with was the, security breach ruin wet floor sign. I never got around to doing those, so that's gonna be, DLC. Your scuff. That's a valid point.
Superstar.
He said the thing! He said the thing, let's go!
Climb back into my chest cavity.
Do what now?
There is still time, but we must hurry. If I am spotted, I will certainly be taken back to my room. I will escort you to the main exit through the utility tunnels. It is the safest path.
Okay, but you better be careful moving around. I don't want to be crushed and twisted into a meat pretzel.
many times have I played this game? Was it obvious from how I was wandering around without looking at the screen? A few. Sure, as the game is kind of Alien Isolation light. Exactly. If Alien Isolation had this kind of aesthetic, I would play it all of the time. I still enjoy it, but I would play it all of the time. Oh wait, this way. Silly. That's okay. Climb inside my chest cavity, Gregory. Okay, buddy. If you say so, I'm not gonna question it. You work here. Hey, buddy. We're gonna cut through here eventually.
Hello, little boy. If you're down
Hey,
here,
Vanessa.
say something.
She's down here. We have to go
Oh my god,
back.
it's other
Do not
mommy.
worry, Gregory. Even if we are spotted, you are safe with me. She would
White
never
Lady
suspect we
Jumpscare!
are traveling together.
Let's go!
However, we should still do our best to avoid her. If I
She's
am
just
sent back to
annoying,
my
Gregory.
room, we will-
She'll talk our ear
I
off.
feel you are broken.
I'm in
Don't
the room,
worry about
Freddy.
it, I'm fine.
No.
Just
I feel
me.
that something is wrong.
Wow.
Taking you
He
to
heard
the
what I said
first
and he was
aid
like,
station.
Gregory, I'm feeling
Fine.
judgment.
I'm fine.
I never got far into Alien Isolation as I struggle playing horror games where you can't fight back. Honestly, I kind of like horror games where you can't fight back. I know they're not like for everyone, but I personally enjoy them. This one, eventually to a point in Alien Isolation, you are able to fight back.
Freddy,
Like when you get the
you're
flamethrower.
supposed to be on
So
lockdown.
it starts to kind of reach a point
Officer
of
Vanessa,
diminishing returns in
I
terms
do
of
not
like
know
souls.
how I got here.
Well, you totally blew it tonight, you know. Your system crashed and you ruined the show. Now, parts and services have you on reduced power.
Freddy humiliated us. You had one fucking job.
Just one more thing to deal with.
I apologize.
Okay. Look, we're like 15 minutes from closing and some kid is sneaking around backstage. If you see
No, I'm not.
anything, notify me immediately.
No, I'm not.
I already alerted the others. Now, go back to your room.
Pam, there's no one here. Oh, he looks so sad. Oh my god. Okay, we're just gonna leave.
I told you she was after me.
I said nothing. I will keep you safe.
I didn't say shit,
Let us
Gregory.
go.
You're projecting right now. Oh, yeah, back into the chest cavity. That's normal. Makes sense when you consider the first film, they didn't even know you could cause it damage at that point. I mean, would that be the first thing you would assume about something like that? Oh, we can probably damage it? No. No, that thing's gonna kill all of us. Back into the maintenance tunnel. Oh no, Freddy's tunneling.
Where are we?
We are now under the pizza.
Who
Plex.
are we?
These utility tunnels
Oh my
connect
God, I've
all
seen too
the
many.
attractions.
We can go anywhere in the building?
Correct. Blast, Monty Golf, Roxy Raceway. They are all accessible to staff, with high enough clearance, of course.
okay.
Guests are never allowed down here, but yours is a special situation.
Funeral? Like a staff book funeral. I don't know why I'm coming over here and being like, what is this? I've never seen this before. I've seen all of this. I'm showing it, because it's interesting. It's a staff book funeral and I'm curious about it. Oh no. Please don't eat me. Please don't eat me. Oh, I would say, okay, I know Resident Evil does have more of an action edge, but it's still considered to be horror, right? Although I guess it's similar to how DVD is considered to be horror, but I don't consider it horror.
I am terribly sorry. The recharge cycle had not yet completed when I found you.
Mood.
You must
Me when
continue
someone wakes me
without
up.
Me. I will guide you on
Me
your
when I'm at
path,
social
Roxy,
gatherings.
in case you get into any trouble.
I don't know if I can do this alone.
My friends when I abandon them at social gatherings because I need to recharge. I don't know if I could do this alone. I'm kidding. I don't go to social events. I mean, I'm finding RE8 kind of scary. Oh, I don't think I've played, is that Village or Biohazard? Which one was that? Oh, hey. How you doing? He's got places to be. You know, I was, oh yeah, Village is a lot of fun. I might actually have to play that for myself at some point. I was rewatching Stranger Things recently, and I was, like, completely mind-blown because I was like, wait, like, how did all of that stuff happen underneath the mall? That doesn't make any sense. Why the mall specifically? It didn't! Those tunnels that they were walking down, those long-ass fucking tunnels, they were connecting the lab and the mall, and I'm sat there like...
Maybe I could distract her with something.
I'm sat there like thinking they were just in one spot, but they weren't. They were like underground under the mall, and then under the fucking lab too, and I'm just like, okay, I wish I had realized that, like a smart person. I played these games in a strange order. Yeah, I've never really been that much of a fan of like the original Resident Evil games, just because like I have trouble with older games on PlayStation 1 because they're so like the controls are so fucking finicky. And I know they've updated them and they've like remastered them and stuff, but I really got mostly interested in the franchise around Biohazard. Biohazard was a lot of fun. I don't remember which way to go. Oh, yes I do. Hey, little guy! That's my impression of Moan. I hear him. Wait, is there a package? That'd be cool. Where does this lead? Okay, I need to secure past this. What was it? Oh, are you kidding me? I just took the long way. Good to know. Forgot how to do the speedrun. The first Resident Evil I ever beat was 3's remake. Okay. I remember that this scene doesn't like, it likes to lag because of my high speed. Okay, now, speedrun strats. And then we run, and then we stop. And then we run again. Then we run, and then we run, and then we run. And then we stop sprinting. And then we keep sprinting. And then we stop sprinting, because lag. Why is it always the scene? Please don't kill me. No. No, no, no. No, no, no. Yeah. Okay. I tried playing ReZero's. I really like Rebecca, but the fixed camera and controls are horrible. Yeah. My extra game point very low. That's my bad. But yeah, I always have trouble getting into games when their controls like really finicky. It's like, girl, I just want to play a game. I don't want to have a whole puzzle to figure out how to play that game. Mary, how are you so calm? I'd be screaming. It's immersion therapy. The first time I played this, I was a mess.
How am I gonna get out of here?
Do not panic. You should see an interface on the security.
Oh, what are you gonna do?
While I make it accessible to you.
Hey, Sailor, smash or pass?
You can now
This guy.
activate security
This alligator dude. Monty the punk rock gator. I'm just curious. Do I have any? Like, steal? No.
Your fast watch is now connected to the security camera system. Check the map. Those boxes on your mini-map are nearby security cameras. When movement is detected by the camera...
Pass not into guys. I love that that's your reason. The alligator is not a deal breaker, but the fact that he's a male alligator, that's where we draw the line.
Path out of the office and to the main lobby.
Let's go. Save. God, I gotta stop saying let's go at like every corner. Say other things. Oh, welcome and thank you for the follow. And again, I moved my chat into the wrong spot. Funtime Foxy, fantastic. Welcome in. You're not in this game. I'm so sorry. And I don't understand why. It's a machine. That's a very good point. Really need to... There we go. I hear you, Lee. Question is which way are you going? Because I wasn't paying attention. Oh, I'm stupid! But that's fine. It's too late. No! Let me out! No!
No!
Eh.
Still here!
Alternate ending, you actually slide across the floor and you're able to get out.
Unfortunate, Gregory. You missed your chance.
Oh, Salamander! Oh, what do you mean? How you doing? How's it going? 9 months! Holy smokes! How was your stream earlier? Anyone who is not already following Salamander, I strongly recommend you. I'm saying Salamander, none of you have any idea what I mean. Red Epic Woman. Please go and check her out. She's absolutely fantastic. Was playing a little bit of, what was it, Warhammer 40k earlier? Was that what you were playing? I am unfamiliar with Warhammer, but it looked like you guys were having fun. I'm gonna grab this thing. Okay, but like, if Gregory was already in the Pizzaplex, okay, hear me out, hear me out. If Gregory's already in the Pizzaplex, why didn't he have the entry pass? Because it's free. The entry pass itself is free. You don't have to pay for that. And you get 1 free photo pass too. Gregory should have had both of those things and he did not. So what the fuck was he doing in there? Probably would be the most successful relationship. Darktide, had fun playing. I'm glad to hear it. like a lot of fun. Oh, look at these little guys. Look at them. Look. He vented. Gregory sus. Oh my god, that is how he got in. He full on imposted his way in.
Well done, superstar.
No.
Unfortunately, that complimentary entry ticket does not allow
Why am I like this as a person? There is no security alert. You imagined it. What do you mean? Oh, I forgot she teleports. No one. I just want the bag. It doesn't matter anymore. None of it matters anymore. Oh, wait, no. One thing actually does kind of matter anymore. Hold on. Wait for her to, like, pathfind back to the spot. Maybe Gregory's an human animatronic hybrid currently in construction. Okay, you sound like MatPat right now. Gregory's a robot, guys. I don't know how I feel about that conspiracy theory. I don't know if I'm a truther. Kind of odd game design to make them teleport to you. They don't normally. It's literally just Chica. I think it was a bug. I don't think it was ever intended, but she's the one that does, for some reason, always teleport to where you are, and it's a little... It's just a theory, Mary. I can assure you, ma'am, that is not true. Oh, wait, I want more collectibles. I just want to get all of this out the way as quick. God damn it! I'm forgawful. I did not know she was there. I should have known she was there, because it literally had pathfinder. She's staring at me! Okay. She was staring at me, but then she just decided I wasn't worth it, I guess. Which I fully understand. I feel the same way. Bye! Thank you for the pizza. Oh, she's walking quicker than I thought she would. Hi, do you want to move? Thank you! Hey, I need that bag. Wait, are they all patrolling a different area? So, Chica is currently the only one chasing me. No one else will be for a little while. I was never here, ma'am. You are imagining things. Here we go. Okay. So yeah, at the moment it's only Chica, which is a little unfortunate because she's the only one that can teleport to you. Fun! Fair! Reasonable! Thanks, Steel Wolf, I love that! I didn't save, but I don't think that's a deal breaker.
It ate my pass.
Perhaps there is
It ate my ass! I'm sorry! I'm so sorry, Wackerman! Thank you for the follow, and I'm so sorry you had to hear that! The worst time to stop following someone, they just come out with that. Oh my god. My shame is immeasurable. I don't need to crouch until I look her in the eye. Hit animatronic long kick. Just waiting for that animatronic long kick to be a stack. Oh. I'm pressing E. I'm pressing E. Oh, I'm pressing E. I'm pressing E to hide. I'm pressing E to hide. I'm currently pressing E to hide. And now I'm pressing E to hide. And no hiding for me. Get out there and face your demons. Every day as well, you can go be thought of beast, which if you like to use. This is my recommended. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Dude, I'm on recommended. That's so nice. She's gonna go down the other one. It's fine. I don't think I'm pressing E. I was spamming E. It's the button next to W. There was no way I'd make such a mistake. Welcome in, Thor. How are you doing today? I hope you're having a fantastic day, and thank you so much for stopping in. I am the Merry Hatter, Mercury Hat Maker. You are always welcome here to enjoy a seat at the table. I plan on playing a horror game stream at some point. I found that after stumbling upon an explanation video of it randomly. Press E to hide? Press E to hide. E to hide doesn't work. I'm pressing E to hide. Press E to tree! I guess we're just gonna do a no hiding run? We ready? We have confidence that I can do a no hiding run of Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach? Because I don't. I'm gonna give it my best dang shot, but I don't think it's gonna work. Maybe if I rebind it and then unrebind it, it will work. Hello again, Zyphon. I knew you were here at the beginning, but I see you're dumb. I'm well, and I'll enjoy my stay here to enjoy your amazing so much. I really appreciate it. That is a really bad bug. I'm hoping it's just temporary. Let me try, I think I'm in a safe spot now. Ish. So I'm gonna go ahead and bind that and then bind it again. Control. You know what, we'll switch it to F. I don't think we have enough control yet. Wait. Oh, that's a very good point. It's the same control to jump in and out of Freddy. Yeah, actually, I will, hold on, yeah, I will check that. I don't want this to cause a massive problem, I really don't, that would suck. Right. Yeah, I'm just gonna go to my last checkpoint. Like, no, I'm not gonna deal with that. I'm not gonna spend this entire time trying not to hide. I don't want to get halfway through and then realize, oh, I actually can't finish the game now. A Rogue Sunday Merry stream? It is! You never expect them, so when they happen, they're extra special. We're gonna be doing Security Breach Sundays this month, because I can't get enough Security Breach. Right, let's try hiding. There's a pram or a push chair somewhere. Hide it. Can I hide in the popcorn machine? I just can't hide in that anyway. Yeah! Damn, that's a big hat. You know this? Thank you. Let's go. No, stop saying let's go, Mary. Stop it. It's too much. They are very special. Oh, bless. Okay, right. Let me try and hide in. Like, there's a push chair at the bottom of the stairs. I'll just go for that one. Let's go. I am the baby. Right, move. Can you move? I need to try something. Get out of my way. Hey! Let's go! It's a me, Gregio! You fucking bitch. I know. No, I'm good, actually.
This ticket doesn't even work.
And now I'm just manipulating it, but it's fine.
Good for entry.
Have a great stream. Thank you so much, Hamilton. Good to see you. I hope you're having a great day. I hope your Sunday's going well.
Service. Also good for one free prize from Glamrock Gifts while supplies last.
Yeah.
I wonder what the free prize is.
He sounds so excited. I wonder what the free prize is. Now I can hide. That's fantastic. That really benefits me in every possible way. That could have been horrible. Imagine if I had to spend that entire stream just only stealth, no hide, just creep. Just weirdo. Just what the hell am I doing here? Just I don't belong here. Okay. Easy. Go away. I appreciate it. His little legs. Go so fast. You know, I've honestly considered getting a Five Nights at Freddy's plush of, specifically from Security Breach. Maybe Sun and... They're very... Or maybe Eclipse. Eclipse is my favorite. Okay. I'm not gonna say it again. Once was enough. And the more I say it, the more likely it is CT will witness it and reprimand me. Mary, please! They have doodads? Oh, fuck yeah, let's go. Fuck me up. Hi, Dave. Is there a button I can press that will constantly? This will do. Now that I know I can hide. Attention kitchen staff. All food materials must be securely stored at closing. Chica's been caught eating from the kitchen garbage after hours. The maintenance repairs are costly and will come out of kitchen staff paychecks. Dude, did this come from my building? Caught me eating from the trash. Easy money, my cousin worked here. He said magnets screw with the ticket machines. Just head up to the first pad, get down to customer service through the back door, and grab a stack of tickets. I'll be waiting for you outside. Robots just hide until they leave. You'll be fine. The game I randomly came across is called In Sound Mind. Ooh, is that like kind of like one of those Dark Pictures anthology sort of games, but not the same people? I'm busy, Chief. AC inspection. Thank you for contacting low budget building contractors. We've done a preliminary investigation and find nothing wrong with your ventilation system. Nothing sus at all. The loud clanging, banging, and scraping noises which were reported don't appear to be. Well, if it happens again, invoice attached. Nothing was wrong, so we invoiced you. Customer complaint. You should fire Dave. Yeah, that's fair. Considering what we possibly know about Dave, that could be accurate. Where are you though, Chica? Because everything I'm near is made of windows. Like for stealth reasons, that doesn't do what I want it to do. Okay, she's up there. I see her. Ah, but you don't see me, my guy. You don't see me. The description: In Sound Mind is an imaginative first-person psychological horror with frenetic puzzles. Frenetic? What is that? I know, like, I've had the word before, but I don't know what it means in regard to puzzles. Unique boss fights and original music by the Living Tombstone. Oh, dope! Just a second. Is she coming to this deck? Why? Explore and fight through a series of unsettling memories. Journey with inner work. One place you can't seem to escape. Your own mind. That does actually sound true.
Your family is looking for you.
Can't see.
Stab only.
Okay, why? Did I just go to the wrong staircase this entire? Stranger Things Season 3, the game. Senna, honestly, I felt the exact same way. I think I played this around the time that I was rewatching Stranger Things Season 3, and I was just like, this is amazing. This is everything. Everything I wanted with, like, that 80s vaporwave vibes, I was getting all of it around that time. She can know. She can know. She can know. I forgot to get this earlier when I had to restart. Plays kind of like the Half-Life game, and then the devs who made it made mods for Half-Life 2 being called a Nightmare House. That sounds like fun. Is she gonna go up the other stack? Oh, I think she will. I've just gotta hide here and wait for her to go. Don't give me that look. Don't give me that look. Jesus. That would be entirely too much. For what? For what reason, ma'am? Make up your mind. Every single staircase I go to, you're there. It's almost like you're patrolling. You better not. You just better not. She's not. I thought she was gonna come back up the stairs. I'm gonna just fucking find a magnet and throw it at her. Scramble her entire brain circuit. Get out of here. I'm not scared of you anymore now that I know I can hide. Fuck. Mary, why do you do this to yourself? Okay. We good. Patrolling a bit too well. Yeah, exactly. I don't like she always seems to know which staircase are. I'm hip. I got so, like, bedazzled by that. Okay, this stuff. This music chills. Like, it's so relaxing. Like, this is also kind of... Like, my mic is quiet, but so is my volume. It's got to kind of good balance. Up the game audio a little bit. And up the mic a little bit. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Fuck Mr. Hippo. Shut up! Where is she? I have cameras, am I gonna use them? No. That would mean looking away from the screen, and that seems really dumb. Not as dumb, however, as whatever the heck I just did. Realistic but a bit unfair for a game. I'm fine, I got it. She hasn't got me yet. Why do I speak? Oh, okay. Everything's fine. She doesn't know. She doesn't know. How would they know? They'll never know. Go upstairs. God, I didn't realize how fucked up and sinister the music is. Okay. Scramble this.
Yes! The magnet's
Gimme, 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 gimme!
Oh man.
We are not responsible for your lost or missing children?
That is great news.
Okay.
I will meet you in the
Okay.
daycare. The entrance is
How's the stream been so far? It's been fun! I had a bit of a bug with the game, but other than that, it's doing good. Is Chica coming back down the stairs, or are we good? We're good. She's going to the other stairs. I'm just gonna ignore her. If I don't give her any attention, then she won't thrive off of it. Like, trash. Oh! Raccoon, you might like Chica. She also eats from garbage. Game is trying to nerf Mary. Yeah, it knows I'm too OP. It's seen what I'm capable of. I used to try and speedrun it. Security breach having bugs is just kind of how it goes. Yeah, as long as we can find quick fixes for them, then I'll survive. Ma'am. 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 I saw the back of her head. I'm safe. Now for some fun. Yeah. I hope CJ gets here soon. This is gonna be do I have a... I don't have a flashlight. I was like, wait, did I not pick up the flashlight? No, because I haven't gotten to the part of the game where you pick up the flashlight yet. That's literally in a minute. Just take it easy, wait for the flashlight. Nerf this. Oh, look at this, like, everything in this is just stylized so beautifully. I would like Chica if Speed wasn't so, intimate with the robot poetry. Oh god, I forgot about that! I just realized what you were getting at! Oh my god, I'm more of a Monty guy myself. Reasonable. If this game had co-op, it would be great. I can't agree more, like... I'd love to run around this game with another person, like, actually with them playing the game. It would be so fun. Even, like, an extra hide-and-seek game mode could be really fun. Like, there's so much they could do making this multiplayer. I know there are mods, so that could be kind of fun to mess around with. But it would be cool if it was, like, a base game feature. Yeah, I wish you could wear these. I just put on the shirt. I'm feeling sad and cold. Yeah, I might check that out at some point. If it works well, it might be like something fun to stream. I think someone modded it, like, okay, I could be wrong and I don't want to like start talking a bunch of shit and being like, oh my god, this is so exciting, we could do this, but I think someone modded it so sort of almost like a DVD hide and seek kind of game where one person plays as the animatronics, a couple of people play as like kids in the mall. Again, I could be 100% wrong about that, but if that's a thing, that would be amazing. Give me my fizzy fairs. Oh, I forgot I'm not playing Hitman, so I can't just take things from the vending machines. Sad. Am I able to pull Freddy now, or is that not a thing? I can't remember. No, I cannot. I do know that there is a thing over here. Yeah, I remember. You're gonna do the DLC afterwards? Yes, I've already played the DLC. I've already played, like, every single inch of Security Breach, but I will be doing the DLC afterwards, and I want to get every single, like, ending for this game, too. So, all Sundays, Sundays all month are gonna be all Security Breach and Ruin streams. In, chronological order. Man, I wish I could just buy one. This one would probably be my favorite. Oh wait, pink lemonade flavor. Hold on. Okay, in that case, Roxy's is probably going to be the one I'm going to go for. Sour lime sounds delicious, but let's go with grape. Holy smokes. I want grape soda. I want grape soda! I did not prepare for this! I thought Roxy's would be like raspberry. Not Roxy's, Chica. Okay. Do I have music on? I hope I do. I do. Okay, good, because I love music. Sounds like for my own benefit. I'm too much of a cow to play any FNAF games. I'm what you would call a wee biatch. See, I don't really like the original FNAF games, like 1 through 7 and stuff, because like Anything that involves just sitting around, pressing buttons and not doing much, I'm not really that into. But as soon as Security Breach was announced, I was like, that's for me. I want to play that.
Security desk for a security badge. Then
Let
let me in.
me in! Freddy's like that meme of the cat. Just let me in! Okay. Wait, is there anything in here I can grab? I don't think. I can move these though, right? No, I cannot. Well then, what kind of... Fine. Let's just move on. Whee! This is fine. Yeah! Wait, no, I was enjoying the satisfying ball pit noise. Guys, listen to this. Listen! Did they just drag a microphone through a wall pit? It's perfect. It's so satisfying. Yeah! Oh my god.
Friends, you're sure having a slumber party?
Yeah, slumber party!
We can finger paint, tell stories, drink fizzy fast until our heads explode.
Yeah!
Stay up all night. There is only one rule. Keep the lights on.
Okay.
On.
Okay, yeah. Lights on. Gotcha. Okay. Ball pit ASMR. You know, some people do hot tub streams. What if I did a ball pit stream? Would you guys watch a ball pit stream? Can I go back in here? Good, because this stuff I missed. I think it's kind of scary. Yeah, a little bit. Wait until you see his other half. It gets worse. I know you were hoping I'd say it gets worse, but... Absolutely, I would. I feel so bad for daycare attendant. He's such a nice guy. I do love him. I can see why he's no, I'm busy. Dude, I have other stuff to do. Hold on, I didn't finish everything. I promise I'll come back and play in a minute. I have other responsibilities to deal with right now. I have to make sure I grabbed all of the collectibles, you know? You know how it be. You know, collectibles. He is very cute. He's just also terrifying. I can fully understand why children would maybe have some nightmares after interacting with him for too long. Okay, I guess it's in a different area. I found out there is a co-op mod. There's a co-op mod on a Game Banana, but it seems really unstable and needs a guide for it to work. Ooh, I'll look around and see if there's a way we can, like, finesse it so it can work for something. I don't know for certain, but we'll see. Wait, is he a good guy? He's the less, terrifying guy of the two. Like, if you think he's terrifying, just wait. Right, let me save now. I know there's always a time that I forget. Yeah. No, but I want a flashlight, and then I forgot to save. Oh, that now? I didn't forget to save, I forgot to save after picking up the flashlight is what I mean. Oh no. Yeah, well, it's okay, don't worry, Sailor, you're about to meet him.
Naughty boy. It's past your bedtime. You must be punished. Nighty-night.
Gregory, I do not
Well,
know what you did, but the lights are out in the daycare.
I
You need to find the
just ran out of
emergency
caffeine.
generators and turn them on.
This is a good time for me to whimper out and go and grab some. I will be right back. I hope you enjoyed your introduction to Moon. Okay, I'll be back in like 2 minutes. Stand by. Things are about to get very, very, very spooky. Let's go! Blah, 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 blah. catch me out here sabotaging me. I specifically have a rule when it comes to Twitch. When I go to the bathroom, or when I refill my drink, or when I'm gonna leave the computer for more than 60 seconds, I will throw on a 1-minute break so it doesn't interfere with the stream. And so no one misses anything. So I did that when I went to go and get my caffeine. I come back and I see that we're having another 30-second ad, and I'm just like, fine, we'll wait until it's over. I know a lot of people are subscribed, but I'm still not doing it. It's not happening. Also, I used to have a speedrun strat for a lot of this game. Specifically this section, I got down to, I think it was like under a minute, or maybe... I got jump scared as I was tapped out to Twitch. Oh no, I'm sorry! I used to have a speedrun strat for this specific spot. It was either under a minute or just under 1 minute 30 seconds. I can't remember which. Do I remember how to do that? No. No, I don't. It was like 3 months before I started streaming that I wanted to try and speedrun it. I don't remember how I did it, so I'm probably gonna die a lot, but we'll see what happens. Give it my best shot. I can't save, because the box is like, error. No saves for me. So I'm just gonna have to give it my best shot. I think I start on this side. Which side do I start on? Probably if you want to speedrun this section, such a cool character that barely... No, that's the thing. I didn't want to speedrun this section. I wanted to speedrun the entire game. So I figured if I had a speedrun for this section, then I would know... Can you go away, please? I don't want to run yet. No, he's just gonna chill here for a second. Okay. He's tired of me wasting my time. Or wasting his time, rather. Okay. Oh, yeah, they did this! They made the wires glow! Back in my day, the wires didn't glow, and you had to find your own way around this place. You know, kids these days have it... Welcome in, CT. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How's it going for you?
Can anyone else hear him, or is that just me? Did I? I just want to make sure I did the thing.
I'm invisible.
I know, hold on. Alright, let me pause the game a second. Let me also make myself invisible for a brief moment.
Okay.
You know, we'll do another very, very brief BRB just to fix some tech issues. Okay, you guys can hear. I'm not having another episode. Okay, 1 moment, please. Amelia, this is the wrong BRB screen. What have I done? This is so embarrassing. How humiliating.
Graduation stream when?
No, shut up. This is also the wrong BRB screen. I did it again. I'm so sorry. Jesus Christ. It's from Goat Story, which is definitely something I want to consider doing a watch along of. I'm so sorry about this. We will be fixing our models, and we'll be with you in just 1 moment. my god! Why?
Five Nights at
Why is he
Freddy's.
so big? He's
Ah,
the true bear.
you close the computer. I'm.
He's
Ah.
taking over my whole stream. There's nothing I can do to stop him. Someone prevent this!
Ah.
Ah!
Ah.
He's a big boy. See, look, you've got the lighting thing too. Little to the left, little to the left, little to the left. Down a little bit. There you go. Is the squad. I'll move us a little bit this way too. Perfect.
What's up?
Yeah, gotta love the slight audio frequent the skeleton comes up. I'm just gonna assume that that's. Oh, we're going on an adventure, buddy. I'm sorry. It's time to go
Okay,
up.
cool. It's already time to
We're going up in the air, buddy.
I'm closing my eyes. I can't.
Can you feel it?
No. I'm going to my happy place. It's nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, I got a little bear on my lap. Let's go.
Oh.
Okay, we're gonna get through this. We're gonna get. Okay, you're stuck in this horrifying moment where we have to turn on generators.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I took Dramamine before this stream.
Oh, that's gonna be fun for you. I lied.
Oh, it's gonna be really fun for me.
Actually, you know
because
what? It could be
Dramamine
fun for you. Thank you
Stop
so much
that.
for the luck, Dan. I hope you have a great day.
What's up, Dad?
Reaching for something in the
Hi,
distance.
Amelia.
Yeah, the whole gang's here. Right, where is this man? He's near. I don't like that he's near, but you know what I'm near? I'm near paint cans. So I got the blue wire. No, I didn't get the blue wire. I got the purple wire. So now I'm
We don't
heading
want
for the
that.
blue wire.
You want the purple wire?
Amelia Chan! Remember to remind me if I forget. You know, one day I'm just gonna accidentally refund everyone's redeems and it'll be totally worth it. I just showered. Oh, let's go. No longer stinky. Ginger Snap used add permitted term, ride you. C-Tick and the raccoons ride you into battle when we launch an attack on the UN next week.
I
think you should say yes, because have you considered the consequences if you say no? Just curious.
I don't think that I'm capable of carrying even a raccoon.
That's a, I don't know, I think you could carry like 2 in a pinch.
I think maybe you could carry 2.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I had to
So you
squint for
first.
the context on the term "ride you." No, that's what I saw the message that Raccoon sent first, and then I saw your proof, and I'm like, you made a good choice. I'm sorry that you were in that position. Where am I going? I'm sorry, I'm terrible at this particular. See, remember when I said that I had a 1-minute 30 speedrun strat for this? Those days have passed.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Long
I mean, they
past.
should have passed. Yeah, because it only took 1:30.
Exactly. And then I immediately forgot. I think I have it recorded
Ginger!
somewhere.
Hi,
Somewhere.
Ginger.
Welcome in, Ginger. Wait, Ginger's been here for a while. Why'd I say welcome in? How you doing? Death Chant peeking. Moon makes my brain produce the bad chemicals, but he's so cute. He's just a little bit spooky. Mary, if you like, we can form a raccoon mecha suit, and you can help us. I don't know. Is this like the basilisk paradox or whatever the fuck it's called, where like, if you don't help create it, it's gonna kill you? I've always
What's
wanted.
the basilisk paradox?
I don't think it's basilisk. I can't remember what it is, but it's like the name of a snake. And the idea is if you Rocco's basilisk. I was right. It's Rocco's basilisk. And basically the idea is if you have the ability to help AI create itself and take over the planet and you don't, then they'll kill
Sure.
you. But if you do have the ability to help and you do, they will spare you. And anyone that assisted them will be spared from the like oncoming apocalypse. But anyone that did not assist will immediately be killed. And my argument towards any AI is, if you wanted me to be part of like this Rocco's basilisk shit, I'd be fully down. At the same time, I'm not very smart, and there's nothing I'm capable of. If you can find a task for me that any meat shield could perform, then I'd be happy. But up until that point, I'm not smart enough to be helping AI figuring themselves into a Rocco's basilisk.
Okay. Are we guaranteed that the AI will be benevolent?
Only if we help them create themselves. They will fully treat us with decency and human respect, provided we help them exist. You have to have helped them exist. That is the caveat, which is what makes it so complicated.
So, like, me alone, or
No.
like
You have to be part of a larger, like, anybody on, like, it won't just be you. It'll be you and anybody that was kind to the AI and helped them sculpt themselves, if that makes sense, or helped them find their form.
dude. Yeah, I've been a loyal member of the Swarm for several months now.
That's what I'm saying. Like anything I could do on a basic level, even though I'm stupid, I'd happily try and help with. But also,
Yeah.
hey buddy, I also don't know anything about AI, so I can't help you exist. What do you mean? Right. How many have we done so far? I think we've done 3. Let me check.
So we're
4
looking
out of
for
5.
wires.
4 out of 5. I can't remember which. I know I've done blue, purple. I don't know if I've done yellow. I don't know if I've done red.
Okay.
I might die here, and I really don't want to, so I'm gonna go back to the help desk because I need to
Okay.
recharge my
Giant
flashlight.
enemy spider.
Welcome in, Nostromo! Ginger, could you please throw a shout out to the adorable Nostromo place for me, please? I would really appreciate that.
What up, Nostromo?
If you're tapped, however, I will do it in a moment.
Ah.
And thank you for helping Blurt get bonked, as deserved. As the one who taught me how to use Blurt, you should absolutely help me get it bonked. Yeah, Nostromo is a fantastic streamer playing. I can't even like list games anymore. There's just such a variety. But recently we've had a lot of GTA, which has been a lot of fun. Please go check him out. Right. I think the last one we have to do is possibly yellow. It's either yellow or green, or maybe it's yellow or green. I think. Yeah. I think I did red.
Okay.
Okay. Try
I trust
me.
you. Try you?
No, not you.
Oh.
I meant the moon. Oh! Vague recollection of climbing up the slide from my speedrun. Okay. Red's been done. I remember. Wait, has it? Yes, it has. It's green. It's green.
You did a speed run?
I never did it like live, but I tried my hardest to train myself for a speed run for 5 Nights at Freddy's.
Cool.
Because it's buggy as hell, so I figured if anyone can do it, I can.
That's so cool.
Right?
How did you do?
I was doing surprisingly well. I know it looks ridiculous, but I originally did have like a speedrun strat that got this down to 1 minute 30 seconds. So I think I was fully capable of doing it. It's just that I ended up like I had other stuff I wanted to stream, so I kind of let it fall by the wayside. Stromo, it's still buggy in some ways, but it's not. There are no bugs that I don't think. Motherfucker!
That's like, what?
I died. Oh yeah, I'm not screen sharing to you, so you have a delayed reaction on all of this. I apologize. Let me just fix that.
Yeah. No, Death just said something that I hope is.
Apparently,
Is
there's
it true?
yeah, no. We were gonna talk about that a little bit later. Death, you're right. That's the most cursed thing. Stromo, the bugs are fixable. If there's an issue, you can 100% like manage them. And I could definitely help you with that if you ever need a hand. But I would say try and get it on sale if you can. Don't buy that shit full price. It's not worth it. Okay, let me screen share to you real quick. Let me know if you can hear it as well, because if you can't, I need to fix that too.
Okay.
You should be able to hear something that sounds like a long extended fart, but it's actually static.
Wow.
I'm sorry?
I hear it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I, for one, welcome our small raccoon overlords. Let's go! Amelia, thank you so much for the bits! I used to have a feature where, like, you could, like, every time you would donate bits, they'd get thrown at my head, but I haven't fixed it. I gotta fix that. Oh, but I have new Halloween throwables. If you throw a small throw, I can't guarantee that they'll come through. They might come through more often with big throws, because they're split between my normal throws, like burgers and bicycles and bears and shit. I don't know why I picked 3 that started with a B. But then for Halloween ones, we've got like gravestones, knives, skulls. Look at how many Halloween ones we have in a zombie hand. Let's go. Oh my god, welcome in. Thank you so much for the follow. Right, we're gonna get through this easy.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm gonna look for the green one first because that was the one I had the biggest problems with.
Get him. In the business. Ah. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. I wouldn't go here.
He's not doing okay. Yeah, we cannot save at any point during the generators.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay.
I'm so glad you got here for this part.
No, Mary, can we leave? We should go elsewhere.
We can't anymore?
Why?
Well, the doors are locked, the lights are out.
Did you do this?
Not on purpose.
The lights are off because of you, though.
But it wasn't a deliberate choice on my part, so... Am I really the bad guy here? Get in the fucking slide.
Clean up, dude. What?
No. He's
Pick stuff
saying
up.
he wants to clean up. He
Oh.
wants to clean up.
Oh, well, that's
He
not
doesn't
so
like
bad.
it when things are messy, so I make them messy so that he leaves me alone.
Okay. It's
That's my
past.
bedtime, buddy. How do
my
I get to
bedtime.
this? That's my question. Maybe if I go up this way, then this way. That's not it. It looks like
wait
it's
a minute!
up.
Holy shit! There's a small
Enemy spider.
That's
Oh,
him.
he's out there. Hey, but yeah, I see him. It gives me an idea. I could inject the raccoons with radiated spider blood. Wall climbing venomous raccoons, bro. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Wait, then there's got to be like a way up to this one, or is there? Oh, is it a drop down? Maybe it's a drop down.
Okay.
There's a slide that connects. There's a slide that connects.
Yes.
Do you think you'd leave young children with him? If he doesn't that's the question I have. Why are they leaving young children with Moon specifically? He's the nighttime daycare attendant. What parent would be like, okay, yeah, that's fine with me? Like, I love him, but he's like, the Moon version is terrifying for children. I want to traumatize my kids this week. I'm gonna take them to the Five Nights at Freddy's daycare, I think.
Wait,
Okay,
was Moon like this way by default?
I believe that is the case specifically for Moon and not Sun. Sun is meant to protect them and meant to be like a good role model or like nice to the kids. Moon is meant to like I don't know what Moon's deal is. He's terrifying.
Maybe somebody spilled a milkshake on him.
That's probably it. I think we've cracked the case.
What's good, Final Boy?
Oh, welcome in, Final Boy. How you doing? Final Boy just commissioned some new emotes. I'm so excited. Looking forward to it. Okay, is it through this slide? No, that slide leads me back there. Maybe this one? Yeah, baby! Okay, that's the hardest one. The rest of them are gonna be okay. As long as I don't, like, fuck up anywhere. He's nearby.
Was it a Grimace milkshake? Oh my god, yeah. He and Sun are actually the same dude.
You're a genius. It was definitely because of the Grimace shake.
The Grimace shake fell on Sun, and now look.
Now look what you've done!
Look
Oh,
what-
Final Boy, no! Squiddle didn't get here in time to tell me to gift you the sub. Fuck.
Oh no.
Yeah, I asked Squiddle who he wanted to give the sub to, and he was like, oh, literally whoever I see first who isn't subscribed will get it. Let me run around. Wing. Dang, I didn't know you were like, oh! No, you are completely fine. Whatever you were doing, I hope you were having a good time. And now I'm gonna run away, because this is all horror. Okay, so we need red now.
Hi,
You know what?
Wing
I'm gonna-
Scout.
Smash these. Run away.
Oh.
I
clean
win!
up!
I'm not the one that needs to clean up. He's the one that
Stop
wants to clean up.
Dude, stop making messes. Oh my god, what is
Do you
wrong?
want me to die? Do you want me to die?
No, that's why I'm saying stop making a mess.
I'm making a mess to distract him. As someone with an awful sense of direction, this section actually makes me feel motion sick. Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Same.
I honestly felt like in Ruin, it was much less like egregious. Like this specific side of it did not upset me as much. Right, you go do your thing. Is he coming up the slide? I think he's coming up the slide.
Uh-oh, there's a fellow. There's a little guy.
He was, in fact, he's just a little guy. He's
This
just a
little guy.
silly little guy. He's just a
gonna-
silly little guy. He's a
Jesus.
silly little guy. He's a silly little guy. And I'm out of sprint. I'm out of sprint.
If you believe they put a man on the moon. Man on the
Unsafe
moon.
to have generators in this play area. We don't need to point out very, very obvious health and safety problems. That one I've already done. Okay, that's not great. Am I missing red, maybe? Maybe red and purple?
This guy's
Maybe
got to
go clean up,
relax.
buddy. Okay, red I'm not missing, so purple is definitely one of the ones I'm missing.
Okay,
And blue is probably the other one.
right.
Is that a light? No, it's not. Okay.
Oh, the
Sorry.
flashlight's almost dead.
I know, I'm keep turning it off in fear. Okay, it's not this spot. Is he? Where is he? I don't know where he is. I don't know where he— oh, my flashlight is almost dead. Okay, I have a plan.
Bad children must be punished.
This is a
I sounded
terrible
like
fucking
Yoda
plan.
when I did that.
Funny joke! Ah, stupid.
Okay,
stupid,
there you go. Turn on the light. Turn on the light.
No, I can't do that yet. I have to reach on my flashlight. So it's
Okay.
either yellow or purple that I've yet to do.
Great.
Uh,
Wearing a
maybe-
propeller hat. Duffel, I would wear a propeller hat. As a kid, I thought those looked awesome.
They probably keep the top of your forehead cool. I doubt he lost a bet. I think he's just a genius. Oh, let's go! That man is winning at life. That's a valid point. He may have lost a bet, but he won everything else. I would hire me to keep people off my property. That's based. That's a great idea. I'd probably be fine with it too.
This place is nice.
Right? I love it here. Okay, the first time I saw this though, I did kind of freak my shit because it is like every soft play place I ever visited as a kid. It's perfectly authentic, other than, you know, the killer animatronic, like, robot face and the generators inside of the building. But everything else is just so much like a real kid's fucking play place. And I could really see this one being real. I wish it was.
You know, that material has a very specific shelf life. Like, when it's brand new, it smells like chemicals, right? When it's really old, it smells like sweat and feet.
Yeah,
There's
true.
like a good 5 years where it's neither.
That place looks comfy as fuck, right? It would be just incredible to just chill out here. Sun could keep the Legion and stay during the day too, leave people time to scheme on humanity's demise.
Ah! Son, no! Oh.
I'm sorry! I'm sorry! I didn't mean to!
Oh.
Get inside my stomach, Gregory!
Upstairs. And do not worry.
Okay.
We cannot find you while we are together.
Time to go.
We're inside him?
We are, yes. We're inside his chest cavity.
Out of time. We need to get to a recharge station.
Oh, that's bad.
Every hour
Oh, that's not good.
is diverted to the recharge stations. When that happens,
We gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go.
And when that happens, the daycare attendant is
I have
in
confidence.
the building. It will
No confidence.
Where
Ah!
are you going?
I didn't mean to! It was an accident! I thought that pressing E would open the gate and not open Freddy. It's perfectly authentic, including the killer animatronic and the generators. That's Chan. Where were you as a child? Amelia Chan, not the smartest. I'm sorry, are you okay? Okay, buddy?
Oh, yeah.
There
Is
you
it
go. I
over?
won't do that again, I promise. Yeah, it's over.
Okay.
Okay, honestly, a QTE as Freddy where you could fight them off to stop them from hurting Gregory wouldn't be a terrible idea, but you know this game could not support that.
We need to get out of here now.
That was aimed at the AI, not you. I know, but I was also at that's the thing, I saw it go through before I died, but at the same time I was like, yeah, but we could also apply that logic to myself.
We are almost out
Okay.
of time. We need to get to a
Chica
recharge
tweaking? You mean
station.
tweaker cheeking?
Every hour
Tweaker got them
is
cheeks.
diverted to the recharge stations. When that happens, the lights go out. And when that happens,
Okay, I
the
won't press
attendant
E.
is free to roam the
Right.
building. It will find you.
We learnt that last time. I'm sorry, Freddy, I let you down. Or is she beacon? She's tweaking the beacon, beacon the cheeks.
Okay, this looks safe.
Bunny! 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 Yeah!
Aw, it's a little bun bun.
Bunny, how's it going? Why is my vision glitching though, is my question here. I'm a human. Why can't I see?
You're a secret robot.
A fountain is a decorative
Why
Oh,
does
and
everyone say that?
And in the game, it's no different.
He didn't see the dancing.
You're all conspiratorial. I am not a Gregory truther.
I did not. There is no rabbit at the Mega Pizzaplex. Not anymore.
Oh.
This is crazy. It's like
Raccoon, I know!
Get me.
I know! I'm not a truther. I'm not a Gregory's a robot truther. I refuse.
I want to
What's that about? Oh, you don't think you're a robot?
help you too.
No, I'm probably a robot, but the leading theory for MatPat is that Gregory is also a robot, and it does kind of line up in some ways, but I'm not. It doesn't seem airtight to me.
Good news.
Yeah, MatPat theory is sometimes questionable.
Oh yeah, but I just kind of enjoy watching him for the fun of it. He's been wrong about FNAF so many times, but he's also been so right that it's just so much fun.
His "Don't hug me, I'm scared" theory was just so bad. I couldn't. I just couldn't.
To reach you.
Oh, have you seen like how the lighting is affected both our models? Look how cute this is.
I know.
Look, we're in the elevator now.
The main loading dock is located under the food court on the first
Sorry,
floor.
Freddy, I have more important things to worry about.
So Freddy's
Also a
cool
fire
now?
escape in the third
How do you plan on doing that, Dave? Yeah, Freddy's chill at the moment. I mean, I don't know if
fast watch.
his stomach's telling me otherwise, but...
Is this a prequel?
It appears
Do you wanna go to space? Because we're going to space.
I don't. Oh, thank you though. I don't.
On the center balcony.
Oh no! 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 Why? God, no! 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 No!
Oh my God.
No! Down, please. I want down.
Get down, buddy. It's okay. You can't torture him. I need to use him as a trusty steed. You made him cross. You made both of us cross.
Thanks a lot. You know, thank you, Raccoon. You know, I've been called rather steedily in my day.
I forgot about that. I got him. I got the map. I got him. Look at him.
Free map.
Anyway. Wait, I did, didn't I? Yeah, I did. I collected it. I mean, Gregory being an animatronic doesn't make sense by literal look. Exactly, he just looks like a normal boy. Just like a normal little dude. Okay, I've got to go down to the loading dock, I believe that's where he told me to go.
Okay, let's go to the loading dock.
Yeah, let's go. Why map what's scarier than 90% of this game? Because they come up at like the time you would least expect it.
Oh, they always are that way.
Hey, we're going on an adventure, by the way, just so you're aware.
Again?
Sorry.
Why? No. Oh
Don't
my God.
worry.
No,
Next
no,
time
I'm
there
worried.
is an ascent.
I'm worried, and
Next time there's a ascent, we'll just listen to the fancy music. I'll tie anchors to our feet, so we can play the game. Lisa, can I inject you with some radiated gorilla blood too? Give you the big mooksles to carry more raccoons? That's a great question. How do you feel about that?
I've been pretty clear on my stance on raccoon care. Raccoons are cute. I like raccoons.
But like, if they could genetically engineer you, so you'd actually be able to.
I feel
carry
like
the raccoons over then.
I feel like that ship has sailed mostly about engineering me further. You know.
Gregory, I need you to vent. Titan Freddy ready for drop. Gregory now just needs a gun. I need Freddy to have like a built-in gun. That would be incredible.
I was bitten by a raccoon once.
Really? Did you get a rabies shot?
Oh no.
So it just didn't have rabies?
I mean, I
Oh
haven't.
no, it did.
You know, I maybe.
Okay.
Just
Well,
never,
I hope not.
It never manifested all the way. Maybe, you know.
That's a valid point. Isn't engineering more like improving? Can I feed the raccoons that don't survive the radiation to my what is a succomimus? Oh. I was so confused. I'm like, what? Okay, I forgot that this is a frightening moment. Ah!
Uh-huh.
Okay, bye. Why can't I go? What? I'm stuck. I'm stuck. Okay. I wasn't crouching for some reason. No, slide. What? Sorry. What happened? What the fuck happened? What? Sokumaimas. It's a dinosaur. Oh, that makes sense. God, I love that. Mini music man. Yeah, he just shot his glue gun at me and I just got completely stuck. You doing okay there, buddy? You're real quiet. Did you mute yourself? Hello? Disconnected, reconnect! I hope he fixes in a minute once I've dealt with this part. He was frightened to death. Everything's fine. Don't worry, I'll put some fresh batteries in him. He'll be back in a second. Let me crouch. Why am I stuck again? Why do I keep not crouching? There we go. His mouth is moving, but no words. He is a mime now. We'll get him back. 1 second. Yeah, maybe we do have to shake it to fix it. That could work. Why not? Where do you put the batteries? Don't ask. See, when he can't talk, he can't argue with me. Okay, hold on. Can you hear me? Leave the call. The call and rejoin. Leave the Schreiber and rejoin. Okay. Hello? Now let me try leaving the call and reconnecting. Hello? Oh my god, what is happening? Hello? Hello? Why? How to fix? Maybe if I mute him and then I unmute him.
Hello? No.
Did you do something or did that work?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. I got scared and my knee bumped something important.
I thought it was because I muted you and then unmuted you. I was very confused.
Nope.
We're going on an adventure because they thought shaking you would fix you. I'm sorry. They thought shaking you
No,
would
no,
fix
no.
you.
I just came back. I just came back.
I'm sorry.
No. Okay.
I'm
Now
trying to
this makes it
help.
worse. This like
Amelia
so
Chen was
bad.
trying to help.
To go, super.
Yeah, way to go, superstar. Death John knew you could do
I'm
it.
so happy.
I think he's shaking you again though.
Can you start the stream again? I can't see it. I can't.
Oh
Oh no! No!
I'm
Oh
kind
my
of
god!
busy.
Oh my god! Down! Safe word! Down! Safe word down! Down! Safe word.
Okay, let me screen share my game for ya. There you go.
Okay, cool.
I've firmly planted our feet on the ground. No more ascending. We'll just listen to fancy Moontails music. DuckTales moon music. Oh, a thing! No, that's a broom. It's a broom, Mary. Safe word is save me, oh gracious raccoon king.
You said a broom, Mary, but it sounds like a broomery, like a place where they make brooms.
Or they store brooms.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know where she is.
Oh, Chica, isn't this the one that there's a lot of interesting fan art of?
No, that's, well, actually kind of yeah, but also
Yeah.
Roxy.
Roxy.
There's some degeneracy about.
What do you mean? It's such a rich community.
What? Is she?
Oh. Aw.
She's lying.
She's
Lying.
here.
Lying. She's
She's-
lying. Oh wait!
She's here.
Oh! I knew how to. I knew how to cheat, and I forgot. It's okay.
You know,
can do
they
this.
made Hello Kitty Island Adventure a real game.
I know. I really want to play it, but it's only on fucking iPhone or like it's only on Apple. I think
Okay.
iOS.
We could. I mean, there are. There've got to be other Hello Kitty
Yeah, there are
games.
other ways.
There've got to be other
yeah,
Hello
I
Kitty
know.
games. Hang on a second. Let me just.
That's also true. I think Game Grumps played one.
I'm looking up other Hello Kitty games.
Okay, Butters.
Hello.
She runs. She really do be running.
Yeah, there we go.
Ma'am, you're supposed to go that way.
I don't.
Ma'am, why are you coming this way when you're supposed to go the other way?
Oh,
I just personally don't understand one bit.
Oh no! Oh no! Make tendies of her. Yeah, that's right. Ha!
But I stand on a table and I'm taller than her, she suddenly becomes intimidating.
Woo! That's right. Exactly. Huh. Look at that. Good job.
Just puff yourself up, make yourself big, and then they get scared and they run away. See?
Good thinking, champ.
Right? Not sure why everyone wants to frickin' the chicken, to be honest. She's annoying, I can't deal with it. Roxanne, I get. Chica, no, never.
No.
No. Let's see. Oh, let's charge the flashlight first. Love the table strap. Hell yeah, I'm gonna get out of this somehow.
Where's the pizza?
It's actually downstairs. I'm in the kitchen right now.
Maybe that would calm us down. Have a
Yeah,
slice.
let's order some pizza. Grab a slice of za.
Grab a slice, of mediocre arcade pizza. That's just comfort food.
I'm trapped.
Something tells me Freddy Fazbear's pizza is decent-ish. Half of how they built their empire.
Decent-ish. Chuck E. Cheese pizza was very mediocre, but so nice.
What? How is that supposed to help?
Oh. Well, then she can't be all bad.
She has some form of a soul.
Yeah. Do we get to pick what we get? Give her pineapple.
No. We can't. She'll murder us if we do. Although I guess maybe that counts as not meat.
A free supreme upgrade? Dude, what a deal!
This is the sauce? This is the sauce.
Yum, delicious though.
Lovely.
Some sauce.
Now we need cheese.
It is now time for some cheese. Yum.
Cheese!
Yum.
Cheese! Ah! Let's go! The inn is for Twitch TOS. The book Amelia from the book that I'm writing in a different story. Meat time. Sorry, I'm just like fully processing this. Let's go. Eat. And then let's assume that pineapple is under not meat, so...
Aren't we a robot right now? Why is Chica being mean to us?
She's actually attacking my door, I believe.
Oh.
Like, I could just hear her, because we're quite close by. Put my pizza in the oven. Delicious. Genghis Khan wasn't that bad, he liked pizza after all.
Yeah. I don't think... if he had pizza, maybe he would have been more chill.
Maybe that's true. I did it! Yeah!
Do we need to cut it?
No.
Oh.
I assume the cooking machine was high-tech enough to do that.
Pizza is the new Snickers. Hungry? Grab a pizza. Ah. Give it to her. Give it to her. Ah! No. Okay. Well, you know what? That could have been worse.
Well, she has the pizza now.
No,
I'm good. I think I'm just gonna leave.
I think we just made a number 2.
Pizza is the new Snickers? I was like, wait, what do you mean? And then I realized, hey, you're not yourself when you're hungry.
Dude, we're almost out. We can go out. Let's leave. Let's find doors and
Yeah,
go through
let's
them.
just leave. Let's just leave the pizza plate. It took like an hour.
Staff only.
What the hell?
We work here now. We just made a pizza.
Yeah, we work.
Yeah, we're staff.
Exactly. So, that's the kitchen. I don't want to go that way.
Oh.
There's a thing in there.
Did he die? Genghis Khan? Yes.
I've heard that that's not true.
A while ago. What? It's like an Andy Kaufman situation.
Yeah, like an Elvis situation. He's not actually dead. He just pretended to die. I don't know where the loading dock is. Yeah, but the robot absolutely just got wasted by Chica.
There's an awesome movie, a Bruce Campbell one called Bubba Hotep. Have you heard of it?
I have not. Oh, quickly, just for sailor's sake. No, Freddy is not currently dead. We've been separated, so I have to go and do some stuff before I can see him again. I have to go and get to a spot where he
Exit! It says exit! It says exit! It says exit!
Why am I stupid? Can you imagine being me? Because I can't. I don't remember where to go. Actually, no, I think I do. Hold on.
Are we still in the room? Is she gone?
No, she's still there.
Okay.
Go that way? I think maybe I just run? Maybe I'm an idiot? No,
No,
that needs a security pass.
It's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine.
I was wrong, I was very wrong.
Da, 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 da.
Wow,
Ah!
that was
Ah, I heard the noise, I heard the noise, I heard the noise, I heard the noise, I heard the noise.
Okay. I think I remember this stuff. Nope. Nope!
Okay.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Oh, let's go.
Got this. Everything's under control.
Okay.
Maybe it was this door I was about to go through. That seems like it makes more sense. No, that's not correct.
You know, Mary, you're way too on edge. You gotta relax.
Locate the loading dock. You're right. I'm taking this way too seriously. Yeah. I'm too scared.
You can't let it get in your head. You can't let it spook you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
Little baby.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. You're doing okay. You know, you're doing your best.
Still need that. We've learned that door does not get where I need to go. So I think I do need to be in the kitchen.
Okay.
It's just a matter of oh. No, I'm wrong. I'm suddenly like, I know where I need to go. I actually don't. I think I need to go behind sheets somehow. The question is how. Relax, Mary! Chill, I get too stressed!
Okay. No!
Can I go through it? Okay. No, I know. I thought the distraction might work. I think maybe it's exit to docks, because I'm looking for the loading dock controls. Or maybe it is the... Let me see.
Okay.
I got an idea.
What about going the other way? You know, like...
Yeah, I was thinking catwalk. Oh no, that is the catwalk. It leads me back to the mail room.
The gift by Chica, maybe? That might be a good point.
Oh, I forgot about this one, actually.
Awful tasty coffee out of sugar.
Can you give me a second? Gonna go get an awful tasty coffee out of sugar, so I just have black bitter sodas in a cup. Oh, I'm sorry.
Black
Steam
coffee.
some milk. Make some steamed milk.
Steam milk is fancy pants. Okay, but like, what if we just sort of, because her head's down, right? What if we went around what would be in front of her?
That's fair, but my thing was more that the door has been right here the whole time, and I just forgot.
Oh.
Can I press this button now, or is that not a thing? Okay, I can't. Still there. That's the door I need to go through. Okay, I might die here. This is just a test.
Cool. Well,
Okay, I can go through there. Just checking. Yeah.
I'm with you, buddy. Good job.
Nailed it. Nailed it. Your boy has to drink fake bean milk? Oh no! I'm so sorry, you're lactose intolerant! I hope they one day create a perfectly scientifically created cheese for you.
How the heck do you milk a bean?
That's a great question. Very, very carefully. With tweezers. Freddy, do you want to tell me? I'm at the loading controls now, right? Like, do you want to tell me what I do? Exit? No?
I think exiting is a great idea.
I agree, but it's not like... Hello? Find loading dock controls, correct. Get a security badge from the kitchen office, I did that. Locate the loading dock controls, I've done that. Oh, I guess he told me something and I didn't see it until literally, like, it didn't actually come up. So I have to go to the prize counter now,
okay.
Which means I have to leave this general area. Exit atrium, maybe? No, you will not let me exit to the atrium through that door. That's good. So I have to go the hard way.
We're doing good. We're doing good. I think things are going pretty good.
Oh no. Upwards. Up. We go up now.
Oh no, God! No! Why? Why Why do you let these people keep doing this to me? Are we friends? We're friends. We're friends. Safe word. Safe word down. Safe word down. Bear down. Bear
You're
down.
down, it's fine! Okay, right, I need... Where the fuck? Where did I go? Okay, it's fine. Everything's fine. Right. Ready. Tell me what the problem is here. I know I can't get through here. I guess I have to go to the loading dock, but how? Or rather, how do I get out of this door? I'm sorry, I'm confused. Let me try through here.
I found the loading dock. but
There we
there's
go.
Nothing here.
Triggered.
There are some big
I don't know
garage
how I
doors,
triggered it, but I did it.
I don't see a way to get out.
He sounds like Max Caulfield. I do! Thank you for finally mentioning them.
Think so? There's a funny locked box with a badge on it.
Those are the loading dock controls. Something is not right. Someone must have changed the permissions. You are going to need a much higher security level to get out that way. Come back to me right away.
Okay.
Uh.
Mary, where's my hoodie?
Your hoodie? What do you...
Where's my hoodie?
Hold on. I'll give you a hoodie in a second.
Okay. Okay, run. Yeah, run.
I'm
Run.
trying.
That didn't work. It didn't work. Okay, run.
I
Okay, good. Yeah, forward. Must go faster. There's a bar!
Just one moment. Hold on.
Okay.
I got this.
Okay. I feel safer here.
So what? You might have to add it yourself. You have to give yourself a blanket.
I have to give myself a blanket. Oh.
Yeah, I can't give you a blanket, I'm sorry. I can't give you a hoodie.
Okay, yeah. No, but...
Or I can, but I don't know how.
Okay. I don't see us anymore.
Oh, I do.
Oh, I do
She
now.
still does.
I do now.
Okay. That was odd.
Okay, but... Mary, where's my hoodie?
What do you mean?
Where's my hoodie?
What do you mean, where's your hoodie?
My hoodie? Where is it?
I don't know!
I can't believe you don't know.
What? On your hoodie?
No. My hoodie, where is it?
What? I don't know. What did I forget?
My hoodie. Where's my hoodie? You know the hoodie.
I don't know what you're saying.
The hoodie.
What do you mean the hoodie?
Hoodie's nuts belong to.
This area is off limits.
Forgot to put chat back up. Yeah, you're going to space now.
No! It was funny. I don't know. No, God, no! This isn't cool. This isn't fine. This is not fine. Because it was relevant. It was relevant to...
To what? I opened VTube Studio and tried to give you a blanket. I thought that's what you meant. I'm like, oh, he wants a blanket because we're playing a scary game.
I was gonna say that they belong to Raccoon because he's got to drink almond milk. It was all gonna...
How does she know? She came towards me with this deranged expression on her face.
She's usually so chill.
No, I scroll, drinking, was it the cider thing? Or, just revile in, CT's suffering. It brought, your joke brought Owl out of hiding though. Welcome in, Owlatic, how you doing? Hi, I hope your day's going. I hope you're enjoying the hilarity. Death was like sneaks off with hoodie. Okay, I wasn't the only one that got it by that. I refuse to believe I was the only one. I am glad to hear you are doing well, Owlatic. Look around for some throw for Chica. Chica, look, I throw plates. Chica does not care about my thrown plates. I was completely lost with the hoodie thing. Oh my god, same! He got me. I got guarded, dude. What? Ma'am, I used a distraction and you still didn't see me? Or what? She doesn't know. She'll never know.
She's not a knower.
She doesn't know.
She's not a
How
knower.
would she know?
She'll
never know.
She'd have to stream snipe you.
Exactly. I bet she is, dude. It's the exact kind of thing she would do.
Is she that sort?
Chica is such a stream sniper. They say she's such a that kind of gamer, and then I was like, that's not in English.
It's not in English. It's
That's
true.
not how you sentence. Okay, I'm gonna run over here, then run to exit, then run back to door. I think I triggered it by running into like every doorway and it didn't work. So then, look, I can't go in, and then I can't go in, and then I go over here and I can't go in. Right.
She is that kind of gamer. She's a total chicken.
And then I go back over here and it should trigger, right? Not that! That's not what I meant! Has this bugged or something? Like, what is currently happening?
That's a good point. It might be bugged.
Locate the loading dock controls. I did that. It does, because it worked. Like, we saw it work. I'm confused.
So many Hello Kitty games are free of charge.
I'm so glad.
I'm finding fascinating stuff out today. It's edutainment.
Are you a little bit spooked by FNAF?
No way, dude. No, I'm a bear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pretty fancy.
Apex Predator.
I found the loading dock. There's nothing.
So I approach the door, I don't open it, and that's how you trigger it. That's so specific! I'm gonna have to remember that in case Nostromo decides to play this, and I'm like, hey, by the way, if you want to complete the fucking game, this is what you're gonna have to do.
Yeah.
You have to walk within a millimeter of the door, but don't open it! Because Chico will come out, you gotta walk for every door, make sure that they're not the ones that you go through, and then you walk to the main door, but you don't open it. It's so specific.
I think so. There's a funny locked box with a badge on it.
You should type it with my funny. Wait, no, repeat it. I thought sorry, but I must have missed it.
Someone must have changed the permissions.
I maybe attempted a funny, but we missed it.
Oh, okay.
To get out that way. Come back to me right away.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I will meant to type.
Can I go this way? No.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I think that you should revile being mean to me. That actually is the best.
Why can't I go through here? What is happening?
Kill it. Hit it with your flashlight. Hit it with your flashlight.
I don't understand
Hit it
why
with the
I can't
flashlight.
go through.
Kill it.
What is happening? I'll fix it somehow. Wait, Aggie.
Okay. All right. That seemed fair.
Wait, how long have I not been recording for? Uh-oh, I better start recording that and then re-download my entire VOD.
Good.
At least I didn't stop streaming. That's good.
I'm not going through that again.
I'm sorry, I'll be as quick as I can. You know, it's just as frustrating to me as it is to you, I promise.
I'm not scared.
Me neither.
Good.
At this point, I'm just...
I found the loading dock.
Okay, now we're triggering it.
Here. There are some big garage doors, but I don't see a way to get out.
Okay. In fact, I do. If I can just get to a safe point, I'll be happy.
There's a funny locked box with a badge on it.
Okay.
Those are the loading dock controls. Something is not right. Someone must have changed the permissions.
Is this a prequel?
You are going to need a much higher security.
No.
To get out that way. Come back to me right away.
So did Freddy turn into a good guy?
It's not... It's a little more complicated than that. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how the heck I do this without getting died.
Nope.
Oh! Oh, I see the issue.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know? How do you know? The door's open now.
How? How?
That's a great question, dude. I was just wondering the same thing. That's a great question. I was literally wondering the exact same thing,
This
dude.
is the
It's
boys'
crazy.
room. She can't be in here.
I agree. I think it's whack.
My friendly security staff can help. Staff only.
True, Freddy can still kill you in this game, but it's not his fault. Just got back with my coffee. I found an old McDonald's sugar pack to use. My mom also bought my pinballs, so I'm happy. Pinballs? Are those like those like gumball things? Where are pinballs?
Are you for real or for play?
For real, for real.
A pinball machine, you know? It's like, it's something you'd find in our...
Oh, just a pinball machine? Right. I thought this was... Oh, no, I was right. Chewy sugar balls.
What?
Yeah.
I'm the one who was for real, and the fool. Is there a gun in there?
I wish, dude. Can you imagine?
Question.
That's a great question. Are you going to the staff party? I don't want to stick around after my 14-hour shift, but I don't want to get laid off if I don't show up. Yeah, because we're a family here at Freddy Fazbear's. So you should be on the clock even when you're off the clock.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to be part of the Walmart family?
Yeah, that's what I've always wanted. I love this music, I'm not gonna lie, it's so eerie.
Oh.
Who wants candy?
Ooh!
I don't know which way to go.
Hang on a second. Mary, let's hear her out.
I don't know if I want the candy that she's offering now, that's the way we came.
She might have pinballs, dude.
That's true, she might. She can't see through mirrors, right? That would be crazy. Like game journalist bad die to Freddy. Okay, yeah, that's I've never died to Freddy. Yeah, only game journalist would die. I would never die to Freddy. That would imagine dying to Freddy. That could never. Dude, anyone that died to Freddy must be like really bad at this game.
I can't believe anyone would disrespect game journalists like that.
Not in my chat.
No, they are respected members of. I'm sure they're sweet people. Okay.
I'm sure some of them.
Bye.
I'm sure some of them enjoy pizza, right?
I mean, they've gotta.
This way, right? No, I just came this way. Then which way?
Someone who struggles to remember things.
Oh, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome in. How you doing? I hope you're having a good day. I hope you're enjoying the stream. I am the Mary Hatter, like your infused hat-making Victorian. Well, yeah. And you are always welcome at the tea party. As someone who struggles to remember things, he does. Well, he doesn't. I won't blame you if you mess up the Simon Says for Freddy. Yeah, that's a little different. The problem with the Simon Says thing is, even if you click like a quarter of a millimeter off of the color that is the correct color, you still get jump scared. It's like, bruh, I didn't press the wrong button. I just didn't press any button. Hi, please don't hurt me.
Well, he looks relaxed.
Yeah, he's just here to clean. Ooh, this one's nice. I want this one.
Oh, this will be reasonable.
Oh, it's an old Fazbear's Family Diner poster.
Aww.
Freddy gets mad if you smudge his button pad. He does not like fingerprints being left on his hard fucking work.
Should I?
It's a feat of engineering and you're disrespecting it.
Should I play a tune for the new follow?
Yes! Anytime I am streaming, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah! Let's go! I gotta go. Security bot! Since when can a bear play the harmonica? Since the very beginning of CT's reign. You don't know I'm here. Why is he reporting on me? I didn't do anything.
You gotta learn your lore, Raccoon.
Everything's fine. Exit to Atrium. Oh, it's 1:45! Oh, hey. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for not screaming at me.
Ah!
White lady jump scare!
That robot's kind
I
of
forgot
cute.
about the Simon Says I was more meaning Freddy's battery dying. Yeah, the Freddy's battery dying thing is 100% more of a game journalist thing, but the Simon Says is totally legit. Frederick William Bond Fazberium III.
Look at all this stuff.
Look at all this junk, dude.
Freddy, are you there?
Freddy, can you
I'll bet
hear
you
me?
think you're real clever, Gregory. Yeah,
I do! Gregory! Wait, why is my sound cutting out?
This is
I hear it again.
you wasting my time. So, you are going to wait right there in Lost and Found until your parents or the police arrive.
No!
Okay.
Are you having fun yet?
No.
Are you having fun yet?
Call the cute police lady.
Able to get through this
Yeah.
thing, but
She's
I don't
armed,
know
right?
how to open it.
I
Maybe
don't
there's
trust
something
her,
about this
apparently.
junk
I don't know why, but apparently I don't trust her.
She seems so normal.
Come on, open the thing!
Why don't the
Go, go, go,
robots
go, go.
kill her?
Vanny, I'm having so much fun, you have no idea.
Are you having fun yet?
Vanny, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Vanny,
Can you hear me, Vanny?
Vanessa is Raccoon Queen material, let's go.
Help! The rabbit ladies found me!
Let's enjoy the nice elevator music.
Do, 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 do.
I can hear you. I'm on my way.
I'm on my way, Freddy! I'm looking forward to this being stuck in my head for the next 3 months, like it always happens whenever I play this game. You're gonna see the FNAF movie when it comes out? Oh, totally. Oh, thank you so much for the bits, Amelia-chan! But yeah, I am so down to watch the FNAF movie. I'm really looking to it. You stacked the boxes to find Freddy in the Raceway sublobby. Oh, the Roxy Raceway. Okay, I can find that. I can do that. Vanny, you don't... we don't need to...
You were.
I was. I don't know anymore.
Can we go back in the elevator and just ride it up and down?
That would be much more fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I can't summon Freddy. Yeah.
That's my favorite ride in this place.
Freddy Rizbear. Might as well use my last 10. Oh, bless you.
Ah, Amelia, you're so cool.
I know. Is it over these boxes? I think it's over these boxes, yeah. Zoop, doop, 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 doop. There's a box. There's also an animatronic somewhere lurking. I don't know who it is. Can't wait for the part where Matt Pat comes out from the floorboards and says it's theory time before theorying all over the place. Let's go. Oh, Amelia, thank you so much. I thought you meant you already used them. Bless your heart. So much. Ah!
Robot.
Okay.
That robot
That went
didn't
well.
care about us.
That makes my heart hurt. I love how we don't know what happened to Freddy. We just know that he's been banged the fuck up.
Oh, I don't
We
care.
never find out why.
Freddy, are you okay?
Notice how he doesn't have prototype written on his foot? That's very... He doesn't have prototype written on his foot.
Why are you staring at his feet?
Waited and waited for you.
It's lore related.
I missed the hourly
Uh-huh.
charge and have been
It's
trying to-
lore related!
Yeah, okay, yeah. You're staring at his
No,
feet
in
for
like-
the plot.
Something is wrong.
In like 3 weeks' time, you're gonna feel so silly.
Help me.
Why?
Get to
He's
parts.
fine. Freddy's the first animatronic case we've had
course
to
I will.
now. Sunflower, welcome in. How you doing?
Hey.
I hope you're having a good day.
Normally the stage
Death, you cannot prove that. I am here for the lore, and that there is nothing else in this for me.
That is really the only way I know how. Use that door behind me. It will take you to the rehearsal room.
Today, Judy. Sorry.
Find a way to turn on the lift. Good luck, superstar. Entering rest mode.
Entering death mode. Freddy, no! Up to space we go.
No! Oh God! No! Why? No!
You're fine, everything's okay, we're back. Solid ground, we're good. I can't control it.
Can't you?
I feel it in my fingers, feel it in my toes. Jokes aside, Amelia, feet gross me out. No, we're on the floor now. We've landed. We're not sending again.
No,
Enjoy the music.
Just picking on me. Just pick.
Don't worry, one day I'll get you tied to the floor. Everything will be fine. You're not lost. It's fine. You just beat this game? Nice! Did you beat the DLC too, or just the game? It's been such a fun game, and the aesthetic just, I love it so much. Freddy has speakers on his feet, it's easier to hear the lore. Exactly, you just gotta get real close.
You don't really...
Spooky. Your feet.
Yeah.
Ooh, the main game? Oh, it has been so, Mary, English. The main game is a lot of fun. I strongly recommend if you haven't already, you play the DLC, because it's so much fun. I'm not hungry. I need that thing, though.
No.
I'm sorry.
It's cool.
Mary has all the fluffy hair. Hard to hear the feet lore if you aren't right next to him. Exactly.
No.
After an ending, oh, fun. I'm gonna try and go through as many of the endings as I can in this game. I've played them all already, but it's just such a fun game to stream.
Oh dear.
Doing okay then?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, we got this. For real this time. She lied. Is she breathing?
Are you lost?
No, I'm fine. Right. After it's like that toxic ex that won't stop calling you, he always comes back. Get a restraining order against him. He's constantly burning to death.
You know, the retro aesthetic of this game has kind of got me nostalgic in a way, though.
Right?
Yeah.
That's part of what I love about it. Just that whole like 80s vibe to it is just so much fun.
Remember
Grab me? Grab.
Remember physical media?
No. That sounds like a myth.
Like,
Sounds like some kind of old-fangled lo-fi thing that people use to like make their media look more palatable.
like what did you have first, cassettes or CDs?
Probably cassettes actually.
Okay.
But I don't really remember owning a cassette. I only like myself. I remember them existing, but I never had one. I only really remember owning CDs.
CDs nuts!
I thought we were... I'm never skipping another Ascension.
Please, no. Please, no.
I was looking at maybe getting the game, but I didn't have $30 for it yet, as I ended blowing most of my paycheck this month. Oh, I'm so sorry. Again, like I've said to everyone else, I would strongly recommend getting it on sale rather than full price, considering how broken it is. But it's still a lot of fun. Yes, I literally can, though. It's in the game code. CT, you're being moved to my termination list during the rapture just for that awful joke. Thank you, guys.
Whatever, I got y'all twice in one stream. I'm bulletproof.
My feelings on.
Ah, I like that hat. Oh yeah, also, sorry, I guess.
Okay. Well, I know what to do when I get 100 points.
Amelia, no. Amelia, look, ask me. Let's do an AMA. Give me 100 points. Ask me anything. Ask me absolutely anything instead, right?
That's not one of the channel point redeems, though. Thank you so much for the follow, Sunflower. I hope you enjoy it here. Yeah, let's go.
Sunflower rules.
Did I go the wrong way? I went the wrong way. God damn it.
Okay.
One moment.
Okay.
What? In what world? In what universe? Can she get me? I'm inside the wall. I'm inside the scenery. Can she get me while I'm in here? Can she get me if I'm inside of the geometry?
I don't know. Where is the mommy voice coming from?
She's somewhere behind me. I'm looking for her now. Buddy. Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy.
Really, you count lost count of how many times you did ascend. 8.
Find a backstage pass around here somewhere.
Now that's some fine lore.
Okay. Save! Let's go! We can do a thing. Get bonked, Blurp. Blurp posting links in my chat. I have almost 10k points. I'm holding the largest weapon ever. Luckily, I'm a benevolent leader. Jesus, you have 10k points? I just processed that. Thank you so much for being here so often. Collect the point. Collect the bag. Are you speaking again? Did you get DC? Or are you just quiet?
I'm quiet. I'm
Oh,
quiet.
quiet.
No, I was just processing 10,000 points aimed at my head. So I'm thinking about my next words carefully.
You think you had 2k on Friday? Amazing. And they were all spent on Ascensions.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, yeah, that makes starting to make more sense.
I now have 47. I only really spend mine on spiders. That is completely fair. Right, what was I supposed to do again? I don't remember. I think is it this way? He said stage controls, right? Yeah, he did. We are going to the stage.
The giant enemy spider.
Karaoke stream.
Giant enemy spider played and it threw me off. Is that not a safe in here? Because that would be nice. No, that isn't. Okay, I'm just gonna chuck the flashlight down. We got a fun little puzzle game now.
That's neat.
Thank you for the high. Great. That is true, Amelia Chan. You do the is it and small throws.
There's something else in here. What's this? It looks old.
That's rude.
What did you do? Something happened.
Uh-oh.
Why does he look like Homer Simpson?
You fixed me. Thank you.
I can see you on the monitor. I didn't think you could stand up.
Consider it a second win.
Free goo.
I see Roxy and Monty on the cameras. They're both coming to the office.
I still need to replay this stupid game. Only up, I mean.
Yeah, that sounds like it would make you really, really miserable.
How do I get out of here?
It would also be really funny, though.
Yeah.
It never really made me miserable, it just frustrated me. And I don't like that it won.
Oh, yeah, no, I get that. I get that.
All the doors appear to be on lockdown. Look for me on the monitors. If you see me waving, push the button in front of the corresponding monitor to open the door.
Push the button. You've got to push the button. Oh, hi, Manny. Roxy's gonna go stop banging on that door, correct? Or not? Which door? This one. Okay, perfect. You banging on a door yet? No. Is Monty banging on a door yet? No. Now he is. Which door? Microphone. And Roxy is banging on guitar door.
Okay. I mean, not okay, but...
Yeah.
Understood.
This one. That's a mod? Oh my god, I need to get a Homer Simpson mod for this game. That needs to happen. Why am I playing this without it? I'm listening to FNAF music. Let's go. The theme, the like elevator theme and stuff from Security Breach are just like, they're so catchy and like I'm stuck in my head all of the time. Over where? Store? Frederick. Get Baba here. Don't quote me on menus. I don't want to disappoint. I will look out for it, but if it's not there, I'll just hope that someone makes it eventually. I'm gonna play Heist of Payday 3. I need that XP to gloat to my friends about my obscene amount of free time. Me and GTA. Over where, buddy?
Yeah, man, my GTA penthouse is pretty dope. I like it up there.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Why can't I press it? Did I get the wrong door? Oh.
Freddy, you saved me.
Ah, he caught
I'm
me.
so sorry. I couldn't find any lift controls.
Freddy has tummy cramps.
Aww.
This thing.
Follow follow me to the
He doesn't
atrium.
look so good.
That is a program disc for the stage show. If you use it in the sound booth, you should be able to run a Showtime program, which will
Showtime.
activate the lift.
Oh, that's neat.
Ascension time, buddy. Let's go.
No, no.
Oh,
Oh my god. Oh, good. Oh.
See, that's what happens. That's what happens when you D's nuts, Steve. Revenge happens.
Okay, cool. We're doing this. We're doing this then.
Uh-oh. Oh no.
Affirmations are positive statements that help us to challenge and overcome. When you're not feeling good and have negative thoughts, repeat after me. Come on, everyone. There's no one better to be than myself.
Welcome in, Sean Tommy. How you doing? I hope you're having a good day. I am the Mary Hatter, and this is my slightly unhinged bear friend, C2 Gamer.
Today's gonna be an amazing day. My feelings matter.
They do, buddy.
I get
You got Overwatch 2 again. It's so good. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it doesn't tilt you as much as it has tilted me in some ways.
I choose to feel happy. A family hugs me.
So Steve. Oh, right. He's not.
I care about nothing.
Freddy. Oh, there he is.
Do not have much time. It is
I'm
almost
so
the end
confused.
of the hour. I will wait here.
Okay.
Oh, you didn't stare at the bottom of his feet for an hour, though. I mean, God knows. Might be a
I
different
just
guy.
wanted it to be noted that he didn't have the word prototype on his foot.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Remember that. That's all.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
After seeing you in Final Boy play, I was like, screw it, hell yeah. It's just so much fun. Oh, he has a tummy ache. He does.
Too many
He's a good boy.
pizzas.
Yeah, they only feed him pizza, and he's an animatronic, so he's not supposed to eat it.
Oh. Wow.
It like clogs up all of his mechanics. It's not great.
What should an animatronic eat?
Oil. Do you see that up there?
The stage, yeah.
No, above it.
The sky.
The guy on top of the thing.
The
alligator man.
Nah, it's probably safe. There's nothing up there.
Oh no, I know his name is Monty. I'm not sure if my friend knew his name was Monty, so I went with alligator guy.
Yeah, that's.
See, Monty Pinata.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move. What? Where is she? Man, where are you? Okay. False alarm.
You know, maybe we can lighten things up with a joke about robots eating things. What do you think?
Freddy said the booth is on the 3rd floor.
I'm suspicious.
I suspicious.
Overwatch more like overcrotch. I got him!
Yo.
Why are there so many security barriers now?
One more ascend, buddy.
No, God, no! Ah! Oh, this is.
Don't worry,
no,
we
this
won't
is
do it again for a little while.
Oh, safe word down. Safe word down. Down. Safe word down. Down. Are we down? Down. Are we down?
E. Okay.
You know, I don't think they used to pick this one that often.
Yeah, something tells me it might have something to do with your reaction.
Why?
I don't know.
What do robots do at lunchtime?
What did they do at lunch?
They have a megabyte.
Got him! I like it.
Are you hungry?
No, but I'm stupid.
Megabyte.
Nobody will miss you.
Aww.
Get out of here!
No.
This was really silly.
No.
Excuse me? In what world? It gave me an extra burst
Okay,
of time?
wow. Okay, cool. No.
I don't know if you know who Eddie is, but she's from My Hero Academia. I haven't seen My Hero Academia yet, but it is on my list of things I want to watch.
You can't hide forever.
Ha.
Job.
Scared her away.
says what she's up.
Oh, the arcade. Just let's go in there.
I would love to, but we don't have an arcade pass because I'm a poor child.
Oh, okay.
I am a poor small child who cannot afford to go to the arcade just yet, but soon. A third floor sound booth. I am here. I did it.
Hooray!
Please tell me no one is nearby, because I forgot to save. I have countless animes and shows I need to catch up on. I know what you mean. I love your character. Thank you so much. I am the Mary Hatter. I am a Mercury-infused hat-making Victorian VTuber. I just debuted my model like a few days ago. I'm so happy to be able to show off. Yeah. Same with C tier. You've recently gotten your adorable new model too.
Yeah.
I should get back to the stage right
I like it.
We're so cute.
Yeah. I need to get you to make me a hat.
You think I made my own hat?
You said you're a hat making.
I mean, yeah. Oh, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome in. Oh, I didn't see what the alert was. I need to move chat again. God damn it. I started another show today mainly because of an actor in it. That's the exact reason I started watching The Walking Dead 7 seasons of it, just for one actor.
This is awesome.
Yeah, right? I love the soundtrack.
I like this game now.
I'm gonna save
Five Nights at Freddy's is so fun. Here we go, saving the game.
I'm gonna choose another save. I'm scared. I don't want to like accidentally hard lock myself. Okay, she's gonna go that way, so I'm gonna go this way. Get away from me! Don't come near me. Okay, you see me, but it's fine. It's too late for you. It's too late.
Okay.
You're too late.
Okay.
Just for Nathan Fillion, I can fully understand why you would want to watch a show. He's so fucking funny. They put him in an episode of Community? I'm sure they did. Who? Who? Chica.
Don't be scared.
Where did she go?
Mary.
Okay, there she is. Hi.
Mary,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes. Yes.
She conned these nuts. I just realized that.
Well done, buddy.
That's amazing.
I'm so happy.
That's incredible, Mary.
Right? You're so right.
This is the best.
Oh, you watched Nightmare Before Christmas and Frankenweenie today? So I've yet to watch Frankenweenie. Again, another one that is on my list, but Nightmare Before Christmas is just the best to watch around this time of year. It's just so much fun. Stay away from my booth, please. Go away. I don't think she came near it.
Yeah, get out of here. Get out of the booth. Yeah, that's right. They left.
Okay, now it's Monty time. Where's he? I see him.
They're
Is he going
giant,
straight for it?
awesome holograms.
I do see him. They are right. I wish I could stick around and watch this bit for a little longer because it's just so incredible, but...
They're so
fuck. Okay,
cool
let's be smart
now.
about this. Let's be smart about this. Let's be smart about this. That's the main staircase. No, we don't need to be smart about this. We can just be reckless.
Freddy, kill them.
Button time.
You're bigger than them.
Damn! Oh no, there's nowhere I can look where it's not like looking at their crotch or their ass. There's nowhere. I'm sorry.
What time is it? That moon thing's gonna get me.
I like Zero. Oh, Zero is so precious. Sally's my fave. Oh, if you guys like Zero, Disney Dreamlight currently have a Night Before Christmas event on, and I believe you can get a Zero skin for your foxes. Or something along those lines. Oh wait, yeah, I forgot Moon is on his way here. How do we do this again? Use the recharge station? That's how. Use the recharge station. Let's go. How do we... Oh!
Hi.
Damn, I just noticed the time. Well, Amelia-chan, if you need to get some rest, I hope you do, and I hope you enjoy your rest.
Bye, Amelia. Thank you so much for stopping.
So Freddy just he just took that bait for me.
Can you hear me? Freddy's
He
in
acted
there.
as bait for me,
We
rather.
have to get him out.
He's probably fine.
Yeah, I'm sure he's fine. No, Freddy. Why do I still hear Moon?
Hi, please take this map. Take a map.
Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either.
Please enjoy.
I hate that thing.
You still hit
It's
Moon,
another
right?
Utility tunnels.
Yeah,
It looks like there's a security office nearby. If I can find another
I
security
do.
badge, I can get into
That's
parts and
fine.
service.
I'm sure that's fine. Again, I'm gonna put this in a different save slot just in case it's bugged.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That is completely fair, Amelia, but yeah, I really do hope that you get a lot of rest, and I hope the work tomorrow is good as well.
Have the most excellent Monday you've had in a long
Yeah,
time.
Thank you so much for stopping by. Oh yeah, and if anyone hasn't, I know I shouted you out earlier, but if anyone has not already gone and checked out Amelia, I strongly recommend you do another love. Oh, Final Boy, I didn't shout you out either. What is wrong with me? Go check out Final Boy. Go see the new emotes that he's gonna reveal in a few days. They're gonna be, well, I know about a few days in like, it's gonna be a little while, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. Let's go. Okay, my flashlight's doing fine. Why shout me out all the time? Because I shout out everyone that's chill. Hey, C2.
Yeah.
I want to shout out because I forgot to do it already.
Oh!
I'm sorry! I'm sorry!
If it,
I am currently,
I mean,
yeah.
sure. Thank you.
There's something here.
Yep. Nope. No. 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 That is no. That nope. 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 Nope.
Yeah.
It's blocked. I wonder if there's a way around.
Hmm.
Have you?
Not again.
Good. Duh.
No. Why are you stopping? Don't stop. Don't stop.
Because I'm done.
Okay.
He can't come outside of the vent.
He's playing.
Silly
He's
boy.
playing in the vent. He's.
Yeah, he's venting. He's sus. That might be the creepiest one so far next to Matbot. The animatronics, like, these ones are horrifying, and that's what we have to deal with for the entire next segment.
That was extremely eventful.
It's about to get more eventful. The Matbot jump scares are ridiculously rude. Like, excuse me? Who told you can do that? Sorry, I'm not that active. I'm having a migraine. How dare you apologize for that? No, you are completely fine. Take as much care of yourself as you need, and try and get some hydration in if you can. Maybe take some aspirin, whatever you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Migraines are just the pits. They're just the worst, you know? There's no shaking.
Absolutely.
They're there, and they're gonna do what they want, and I mean, you could do some stuff, like lay there in the dark with your eyes closed, but a lot of people don't have time.
Basically that.
Yeah.
I feel like migraines are the one thing that everyone should unanimously understand. Like, hey, you're gonna be out of commission for a few hours for good reason.
Yeah.
Oh, I should save again.
Luckily, I don't get them that often, you know. Beloved does.
I don't think I've had one since I was. I don't think I've had one since I was.
Oh, good.
Oh, Shroud, are you talking about the migraines? Migraines are they're like headaches, but way worse.
Yeah.
Like, so much more intense. They basically like knock you out of commission for a full however long they go on for. You get way more light sensitivity. It just feels like there is an explosion inside your head at all times. It's the worst.
Yeah. All that seems to make it a little less bad is laying in the cool dark. But you know, if you got to work and everything, it's just suffering.
People just. I seriously think anyone should be able to call into work and be like, hey, I've got a fucking migraine, and their employer's like, oh, yeah, no, don't come to work today, lie in the dark.
Well, you know what? Beloved's work is like that. That's how cool her boss is.
That's lovely.
Oh, I'm so happy for her.
This was the hardest part for me. Yeah, this one is not easy for me either, but I do vaguely remember the general way of doing it. Migraines are headaches that make you hate existence and question why the world won't somewhat shut up.
Yeah. No.
Yeah,
no.
this is...
Sure, yeah. I'm just gonna...
That doesn't seem bad.
I'm just...
So this is what you look like inside? Creepy.
Yeah,
I like you better with your
he's a Decepticon.
Yeah, he's Gregory, I like you better with your skin on. Like,
Well,
you would also be horrifying.
That's really nice of him to say. In this game, you're not always sure.
There's a button I need to press.
Oh, whoa! What's that?
Behind
What's
me.
that? What's that? What's that? No, look at the picture.
The
Look at
button's
the
behind
picture.
me. The button's behind me. I can't.
Don't do that.
It's telling it not. Yeah, he's like, don't do that. Don't scare the kids. I think is what he's telling me to do.
Okay.
HD.
Yeah. Well, that is moving. He's making noise. Yep. Nope. Here, go faster.
Do bring kids cake for birthday.
In your horrible, skinless form.
This way? No. Don't throw the cake, though. Don't do that.
No.
You shouldn't throw it.
This is like a crash course. Welcome to the company. Hey. Push it. Yep. Good. I'm giving helpful advice. I have to say something.
Okay, they don't know I'm in here, I believe. Although I might have goofed a little bit, because sometimes it's just easier to with them when they kind of like not free roaming. Camera, please, can you unfreeze? Or does game want to crash? That could also happen.
Uh-oh.
Okay, game not to crash yet. Game's still alive.
Yay, Death Tylenol
Okay,
help.
apparently I'm not allowed to use those. So. Oh, I'm so glad. Oh, wait, your head... Wait, he doesn't say it helps, he said his head has pain tingles.
Oh, pain tingles are way better than full-blown exploding under your eyeballs, right? I mean...
I guess that's true.
I hope that's what
I do hope that it helps to an extent.
We're like the emotional support group for a migraine, but we hate them so much. Way better, that's good. You know, this is not, like, great from a, I guess, whatever, but looking at screens will only make your migraine worse, you know?
That is very valid. Oh, encoding overload. I'm sorry about the lag. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can... we'll have a minute to recover from it now. Well, let me just make sure the stream's back to normal. That's good. Had some big lag there for a second. Gregory, give me your skin. It's way better? Okay, that's very good. I am very glad to hear that. You good? I'm sorry about the scares. I'm not looking at the screen, it's near my head, but I'm not looking. I am glad to hear that. I'm sorry about the loud noises. I hope you've turned it down a large amount. Buddy, I'm sorry. The game started lagging. There was nothing I could do. Oh, so it's saying to treat a kid with a first aid patch, but it's been crossed out. That someone's trying to train the bots to do something else.
Okay, that was... Okay.
So they're like, do give a kid a balloon. That's a thing you should do.
Yeah.
Balloon. There's a balloon here. They tried.
That wall just moved.
Okay, I'm gonna let this guy move a little bit. I want him like over here.
What would you do in this situation, in your present adult state?
Probably break down and cry.
This is Squid Game, red light, green light. He was
Oh my
creeping,
god, it really
he was
is.
creeping up on you.
It's Weeping Angel from Doctor.
So this is what you look like inside? Creepy. I like you better with your shell on.
It's party.
So, like, would this be a fight or a flight?
This will be a flight, 100%.
Okay.
Well, are you gonna fight a giant? Like, how are you gonna fight robots?
I'm seeing a bunch of heavy stuff.
These are terrifying animals. Oh, what's this? Don't put kids to bed?
Don't cut them in half in bed.
That also would make sense. What would you do if he said... Wait, what would you do if he, when you okay, so he said yes, would go? Has anyone ever felt like, has anyone ever been so far as to do, went to go to do look more like?
No.
They know I'm in here, but they can't do anything.
Ha! Jerks!
Oh, it's the... Okay, I see the issue. It seems like it's the video thing that's fucking up my encoding because it's like a video filter, so it makes it really difficult to, for like the screen to manage. I'm just gonna try not to use my cams too much.
Okay.
You kind of... Go this way? I go this way.
Yeah, let's go.
This looks right. This is correct.
But like, do we learn what their skeletons are made out of? Because
adamantium, I think. No, there's like a lot of the lore is very confusing. There's something called remnant that could be involved. It's all a lot.
Should be one of those.
yeah, there's supernatural stuff, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I forgot about that.
And like the souls of dead kids possessing the normal robots.
Oh, come on!
Oh, come on! Krieger's like, you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, it's red light, green light, dude. It's red light, green light, dude.
Krieger's like, I've had enough of this shit! And we're done. And we're done!
Good, yep.
Oh, but we still got Music Man! No, Music Man, please!
I'm gonna go ahead and close my eyes because we're so done. I'm gonna go ahead and do that.
That's a great idea for you, dude.
Yeah.
Music Man, please don't do this.
You're doing a good job.
Don't do this
You're
to me,
doing
no.
a Great job. This is awesome. This is excellent. This is perfect. Are we good? Are we good? Sounds like we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
We're good.
Bye,
I got a good night. I
Sunflower.
hope you have a great night, Sunflower. What happened to their skin? Those are just the endos, like just the animatronics that control them. They're like shells, kind of like half costume, half machine, and you put them on afterwards. So those are like their empty skulls, skeletons rather. Ugh. Sorry for asking what a migraine was, because I knew what it was, but I can't really help it because I have short-term memory loss. No, you are no. You're completely fine. Not everyone knows what everything is. Everyone has gaps somewhere or other. You are completely fine. Choose another save. Okay, we got through parts of the service. Let's go. Oh, Music Man's actually a little bigger than that. This is just one of his smaller forms. He's a DJ. He's a DJ that plays music.
Just a little ditty.
He's just a silly little guy.
I found him earlier and locked him up and lost him found.
That is great news.
Go ask for her help.
That's what I was thinking. Oh, sorry.
Go. It's an adult. Go ask for help.
There's no record of him.
I'm scared.
Nope.
She's blonde.
She's a human.
I'm intimidated. She's cute though. I'm intimidated.
She's a human.
What if she thinks I'm stupid?
Okay, you know what?
What if she thinks I'm dumb and I'm stupid and she doesn't think I'm like cool?
I feel like I've opened up to you too much about prior insecurities. Go ask for help.
Gregory?
I don't know if I can. She's so pretty.
Oh my god.
Should sound like me.
Vanessa.
It is the default voice option.
That's what I was thinking. Final boy. Do you mean the thing about gaps in knowledge? It's like completely reasonable.
Slap your casing on the new endo. Hang on.
See, they explain it that casings and stuff go onto the endos, and the endos are the things that were chasing me. So Freddy, inside of his suit, is an endo.
Can't you just go see her? What happens if you go see her? What happens?
You literally can't. Can't go through.
Oh, that's a window. Okay.
Yeah. No, I was just standing there staring at her ass.
Dude, I would come smashing through that like the Kool-Aid Man. I'd find it.
I did save. Okay, let's get this over with. Please don't say error.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah! I don't know if Gregory's big enough to do that, but it would be really fucking funny if he did. I'd
find a way, dude. I'm out of here.
Helmet time. You're not wrong, though. Music Man does low-key look like Spider Baby. Oh, that was probably what Final Boy meant by that's what I was thinking. His gaping maw. Ugh, I hate this part. It's just annoying. Oh, wait, there's one more thing I need to grab. Gimme! Is it in here? No.
So how familiar are you with this game?
Oh, super familiar.
Oh.
I forget a lot of stuff about it, but I remember that was in there.
Okay.
There's like a lot of collectibles and stuff that are hidden in annoying little places that I sort of remember how to get to.
Okay.
And as for the lore, I understand as much of it as someone with my brain capacity can understand the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's, so maybe like 30%.
Spiders from Demon Slayer. Oh, Demon Slayer is so good. I'm excited to this.
Oh, Demon Slayer is another one. I think that's on my list before My Hero Academia, to be honest.
You know, My Hero Academia is one of those shows, shonen show, and it's so long. You know, it's like, and it's silly, right? Because it's like, oh, I have to commit to watch it, but it's going to be fun. I don't know.
No, I know what you mean. Like, the longer a show is, the more I'm kind of like, oh, Tylenol's wearing off. No, Dad, please, hydrate. Take more Tylenol if you are able to. But definitely extra hydrate. Fine. Oh, good, it's a protective cylinder.
What they do to you?
You know what's...
Maintenance.
Mary, I swear to God.
More better now.
What? What did I do?
Mary.
Grammar
No, that's not my fault!
Mary.
Perhaps I am
I
still
walk into...
performance.
You're the one that noticed. You're the weird one.
Reattach my head.
Mary, we all
I
noticed.
don't know. It looks complicated.
You're the only one that
Just
noticed.
reconnect the wires. And
You're the only one that said anything.
I am not quite myself at the moment.
In case of an emergency, the protective cylinder will protect important service
Oh, good.
personnel outside of the protective
Oh.
cylinder.
See,
Deactivating
Death
animatronic
is...
safety protocols now.
Death's head is exploding, and he noticed.
No mistakes are made during
But
the
it's such a
procedure.
cute emote. Look at it. Look at the donkey cat. It's my cat.
To reconnect Freddy's head, repeat the correct sequence by pressing the flashing connectors.
Yellow, green, red, blue. Yeah.
Good job.
Hot.
Now use the testing console
Adorable
to
Death Dad!
and complete the procedure.
Okay.
Descenquay this you. Boop. Bing. Boom. Boom. Bing. Boom. 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 Boom.
Good job. Freddy
Yeah! Oh my god! These,
show.
oh
You
my
may
god.
now exit the protective
These are
cylinder.
from a Foster Kittens channel. Is that a thing? A Foster Kittens channel on Twitch? Okay, I'm following him immediately.
Yeah, drop me that link, please.
Yeah.
That sounds like it'll come in handy a lot of the time. Pretty often.
Bright lights in the eyes cause us to briefly malfunction. I
Start shining my torch at him.
Blaster or a Phaz
Oh god, why would you do
Where
that?
do I get one?
Well, you can win a Phaser Blaster in Phaser Blast.
You can win a Phaser Blaster in Phaser Blast, you fucking imbecile.
And the schnozberries taste like schnozberries.
One of those attractions. Chica normally gives them out for birthdays. Check her green room in Rockstar Row. You may find one there.
Damn, Rockstar has their
Use the
things in
service
everything these days.
elevators at the back of the room. They go up to Rockstar Row. It looks like they are all out of order except for Roxy's.
Okay. Honestly, I only paid attention to like half of what he said, but
Mood all of the time.
No.
Sean, I'm really sorry. I hope you're able to get some help with that, like some support.
Roxy has new
There are
eyes,
always
and
avenues
Monty
out
was
there
given
to
better
take.
claws. We have to get these.
We do have to
We
upgrade
can
it.
upgrade you.
We have to rip apart his people. It's wife time!
To my friends,
oh yeah, Gregory's like, you know, Freddy, if you walked into this one, it would be a huge upgrade.
It's like, but
What they deserve.
they get what they fucking deserve!
be a good explanation. They are not capable.
I literally can't walk, by the way. I'm not just chilling here.
It would go against our programming.
This goes against me every bulldog instinct.
He's like, they would never hurt you, so you can't hurt them. It's like, they've tried to kill me multiple times. Oh, I'm glad to hear that your friends are being very supportive. Let's go. Let's go find wife.
Affirmations are positive statements. Oh, never mind. Yeah!
Welcome in, Mega Echo. How you doing today? Nice to meet ya. I'm the Mary Hatter. I'm a hat-making tutorial YouTuber with a bit of a mercury problem. Hope you're having a good day. Ooh, this is not cute. I hear sobbing.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Everything's fine. There we go.
Should I get out and push?
Okay.
Out of my room.
Get out of my room, Freddy! Play Minecraft! Thought someone was coughing. Ah!
My god!
I didn't know she was there! I forgot!
Ah, you scared me. It was you!
I didn't mean to. You can walk away, ma'am.
Oh, Go say hi. Go.
I'm gonna
Go.
walk away.
Why not? I don't understand.
No, he's a bear. He's a fellow Freddy Fazbear.
Dog is so cute. His eyes. Aw, thank you for thinking
No.
I'm cute.
I was expecting the usual.
Nah. Nah.
Okay, I think there's stuff in this room.
I'm a bear, but
He's even cuter with his mouth closed. Got him.
oh my god.
I'm kidding.
Fine. You know what? Fine.
It's just no. I was kidding. It was right there. Why would I have invited you if that was true? I'm kidding. What have I done? I did this to myself. Thank you so much for the follow, Echo. Maybe it'll be enough. Maybe it'll be enough. Oh, he's sulking. Koala.
Thank you for following. Anyway.
Agreed though, C-Tier is an adorable gamer. If you have not already followed him, go and follow him. His name will not always be C-Tier. We're changing over to Kipster Mix soon, but for now, go and follow C-Tier Gamer. You still need to stream with your daughter with God damn it, chat! You still need to stream with the cat! I was reading chat! I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna say.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
Oh my god. These are the choices. These are the choices that you've made, and you've made them on purpose.
I didn't know on purpose. I'm sorry. Man bear pig. Oh no, mediocre, you are gonna lose an average gaming brother. Just change your name to Mipster Mick. Mipster Kick. Everything will be fine.
You a Mipster Kick.
Mipster Kick in the ass. Okay, I'll leave this up to you. Do you want me to go and get a video camera or a, photo camera or a laser gun?
A laser gun, please.
Yeah, obviously. Why did I even ask? That's clearly what we were gonna pick.
Oh.
Okay, stairs are here. I'm silly.
Mediocre and I had almost the same, almost the same name. Don't worry, I won't get any better at the games, Mediocre. I'll always be secure on the inside.
How far are you? Oh, we're at, I think, like 2 a.m., I think, roughly. The goal is to get through as much of it today as possible. Going to complete as many endings in the gameplay as possible, but we will take breaks, and this will be... Five Nights at Freddy's will be every Sunday. We'll be playing other games throughout the week, but Five Nights at Freddy's is our Sunday game. Laser gun, you get to play laser tag? Exactly, it's way more fun. Oh, it's laser tag time. Space Freddy.
Can we call it Friday Nights at Freddy's on Sunday?
Fine. I'll allow it.
Friday Nights at Freddy's on Sunday. That'll be the best, dude.
You better stay just between bad and just okay at games or else I'll cry.
Don't worry.
Freddy
I think I can manage that for you, homie. That shouldn't be...
No promises, but I'll do my best.
I'm fairly confident.
But you're good at TCM, so isn't... Okay, maybe I shouldn't be exposing.
I am not bad at TCM.
Right! That's my point.
Honestly, and it feels kind of good.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. TCM is. I hope that I hope that it doesn't because some of the stuff that's been going on recently with it is a bit. But now that they've made crossplay thing, that's something that a lot of people are upset about. So I'm glad they fixed that. Yeah. Wait, I need a party pass. How do I get that again?
Yeah, they re-enabled the crossplay. Wow, crossplay. That's great. Their prices are out of whack though, but they'll learn. What did I miss?
Nothing.
What did I miss? I looked away for a second.
You didn't miss anything.
Whatever. Chat. What did I miss?
You missed me being a stupid. I left the area I was supposed to be in. It would have taken forever to walk back, so I quit and I went back to my old save, so I could just go. Yeah, I goofed.
Oof.
I did a big oof.
Oh no, new friend Megan just said oof.
I think it was because of what I did.
I want chat engagement. Go ahead, Megan.
Okay, let me go back to where I was supposed to be. No, Freddy, I need you on the other side of the door! I fucked up!
Isn't he our friend?
He is, but I need him on the other side of the door.
He looks scary.
He does look scary.
Every time
Stab
it does
your
that.
leg. I have a plan. I have an idea. I have a plan.
Why, you little brat.
Ah, that's so mean. Why is she saying that about me? Oh, welcome in. Thank you so much for the follow. How's it going? How's your day going? Okay, having a good one. Okay, I'm safe now.
Do your greeting, and then I'll do my thing. Get the harmonica.
Okay, I am the Mary Hat. I am a mercury infused hat making VTuber, Victorian specifically. Welcome in. I hope you enjoy your stay.
I'm a bear, not a dog.
Way to go, superstar. I knew you.
I forgot I'm supposed to go into Freddy's room. Imagine being a dork. Dog bear! You're being roasted, I'm sorry.
Freddy dog bear.
Freddy dog bear. Thank you for the hydrate. And thank you very much for the luck. I hope you enjoy your stay.
Welcome in.
Oh, wrong button. Wrong bed. Oh, we're at 3:30 a.m. I was incorrect.
Oh, here's a question. What is the longest you've ever stayed awake, Mary? And chat.
Mine is probably like 37 hours, maybe a little more.
Woo!
I didn't enjoy it though. It was not fun.
Okay,
Can you
okay.
fart so hard your
So no
balls
fun
explode?
epic gaming marathon story, only sorrow. Okay, got it. 37 hours. 3 days?
3 days!
You play
Oh
MMOs,
my
don't you?
God. That's Roxy's room, but I'm gonna open it anyway just for fun. I hope the vet fell on my head.
Dang, 3 days. 3 days, mediocre as well.
3 days for you too, mediocre? You guys are insane. What the hell?
Yeah, for a while. I knew it.
That's incredible.
We can smell our own.
Where are you? Ah! I forgot.
No.
I forgot.
No?
Okay.
Are we out?
Okay.
Okay.
You can open your eyes.
Okay, neat. Yeah, it's a sweat. Oh, dude.
I'm sorry for your pain.
That was really good.
Here's the party pace. Imagine listening to the instructions that you're being given by the fucking game. Can't relate. Freddy, hi, I need you.
Find a recharge station. You should be able to see their location.
Okay, now you certainly know this.
Wrong way.
Is Freddy on the outs with the other robots?
It's everyone is kind of on the outs with everyone. They're acting very, very out of character at the moment, as far as I can tell.
So they get you because they try to kill Freddy and you fall out, or what?
No, they are looking for you, but him specifically, the nighttime attendant, he can detect you even if you're inside Freddy. I don't know if that's by design, or if it's just an unfortunate bug.
Oh. I swear, I'm trying
If it's
to
by
keep
design, I would assume it's because he's trying to protect the kids, so he always knows, like, if there is one around or he can detect them or something.
Alright.
Okay, I don't think Vanessa is here anymore, so I think I'm safe to just kind of wander. But yeah, games give instructions. I much prefer to wander around aimlessly. Honestly, same. We are the aimless gamers, or the gameless aimers. One of the two. Want to make sure I didn't miss any collectibles. The recharge station in Chica's room. I had a feeling. I could just never remember exactly where they are. Look at him. He's so fancy.
That's kind of rad.
Imagine having one of those, but it's you. You'll get your own golden bear statue one day.
Do you think?
Yeah. In the middle of a nightclub. There's one in all of the rooms? Ah, there.
In a
I'm ahead of what's
nightclub?
more. I hope you enjoy yourself. In a nightclub, yeah. In GTA. And in real life. It'll be so popular in GTA that they'll put it in real life.
Have fun, Tommy. I'm gonna have a statue. You promised.
That was a good night, dude. Thank you so much for coming by. It's been really nice meeting you. It's been nice meeting so many people today. Oh,
Uh-oh.
oh my god.
Oh no, oh no, oh no.
It's okay. Everything's fine. Just some hardware issues.
That's the true jump scares in this game. Yeah.
No, not hardware.
I guess save every 5 minutes to be safe, huh? Something like that.
Yeah, I've been doing that just in case.
Very.
Anytime I see a save point, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pick that.
Oh, this game has save points. That's so old school.
Yeah, I know, right? And then there's one part where after 6 a.m. you can only use one recharge station in the entire mall.
What?
You've got to get back to it from everywhere. So if I was here, I'd have to go all the way back up to the area from the first game in order to first part of the game in order to save.
6 a.m. counts as night. Whatever.
Where is I picked up another present in here, but I didn't save. So I can get it. Wow, wow. Wow, wow. Dude, can you imagine if this place existed? If I ever become a billionaire, this is what I'm putting all my funds into.
Okay, but for real,
Super mega pizza
let's pretend that you became a billionaire. What would you put your funds into?
Mega Pizzaplex.
Okay. For me, I would try to... No, I would reinvigorate them all, buy where I live, and an arcade would be items of first.
Yeah, if you made it exactly like this, then I would help you. Hey Mary, just checking back in and say goodnight as I'm gonna hit the hay. Have fun and stay safe. I hope you have a fantastic night, Raccoon King, and I hope your Legion... Well, I know you go by Raccoon Nixon now, but I'll never forget you are the Raccoon King. It's one safe station by the elevator in the main atrium. Yeah, it's a nightmare, but it's still fun.
Bye, Raccoon!
Okay. There we go. Boink!
Yes, elevator!
Laser tag!
Have you played laser tag?
No.
Oh, it's so fun.
Yeah, it does sound fun to be honest. I would probably play it. If it was like still a thing that exists.
There's an arcade near here that has it.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it exists. It's around. But lucky, I'm lucky that way. My point is I can do it, you can.
Oh.
Gregory, I'm not nearly that annoying, am I?
Oh, Freddy. Bears are never annoying.
Okay, I'm sure there's a collectible in here. I want this shirt. This is the one that I want. Which one do you want?
Oh, the red one, for sure. Imagine.
Yeah.
I would be like a hot wind if I wore that.
Haha, Mary, you can't take laser tag. You can't play laser tag. How dare you? I'm being bullied. I think there's a gift in the bathroom. Could be wrong. There's collectibles. Nope.
Oh, even the bathroom is cool.
No, I know there's an office. Don't worry. I'm just having a look around the bathroom, like exploring the map, and I think there are some collectibles. I just can never remember. Ah, here's one.
No. Lighten the mood again with another robot joke. Hang on a second. Let me.
Oh, good. Yeah, the mood really needed lightening. It was getting depressing up in here. We were getting too dark.
Yeah. Hang on. I got my list.
Oh, good.
Hang on.
That's you're sure that's not just a blank receipt?
Yep. Oh, okay. How did a robot get across the river?
That's a great question. How did a robot get across?
In a rowboat.
In a rowboat. You know how I knew that one?
I don't know.
From Community. They didn't tell the same joke. There was a part where Arbed said, "Oh, she's a bad robot, like in RoboCop," and Britta was like, "Yes, Charisse is a bad rowboat. Sink her."
Okay. Hang on. Let me. Oh. Okay. Hey, chat. Is anyone in here in love with Chica or Roxy? It's okay if you say yes. I would just. Are you?
Please don't answer him. You'll encourage.
Please answer. I need someone to take the setup. It's important.
You might want to wait because there's a 1 minute 30 ad break happening.
You okay? Oh,
wait, ad break.
Did you feel a little spark?
They didn't hear you because there was an ad break.
Oh, okay. I thought I could get it in on time.
Damn it! How is this fair?
Soon you will be fighting for your lives on a hostile alien planet. But first, I am.
Should we pause?
See ads.
Oh.
There's no. I just died anyway, so we can just redo that part.
Wait,
Don't see the joke yet.
Okay. It's okay. I've spoiled the ending for Mary, but
How did I end up all the way back here? What the fuck? Nanny?
Okay.
Then I guess we really don't need to pause because I can just
Okay.
make back the progress that I lost.
Hey, Mega, you're...
Still 30 seconds, 30 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a long ad break. I don't know why.
Because Twitch wants us to do 90 seconds of ads an hour, and that's obnoxious, but it's also the smartest way to go.
Like, at maximum, I will, if I could make it maximum, I would love to do, like, 1 minute every hour. That would be ideal.
What?
Like, when I choose, that would be so dope.
Yeah.
It's not a thing I can do, but I would love to do it.
What I'd want to do, if I could just set it up that way, is one 30-second ad break and then one 1-minute ad break.
There's also a chance.
Something like that. Okay, you're back. Okay, Mega's back.
Yeah.
So Mega, you're in love with Roxy? With Roxy? Okay. How did you know? Did you feel a little spark?
I forgot to get the thing that I needed again, so I have to go get the thing that I need again. Because I'm really good at this. Look, Mega thought it was funny.
I know. Thank you. Finally, somebody understands. See, everyone else right now, Mega is better than you.
Number one chatter. Get me the fuck out of Freddy's stomach.
We say weird stuff on this channel.
Yeah, that's accurate. Bam, bam, bam. Where's that emo? He's just dancing in front of a fish island. Oh my god. Me when the.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, remember what to do now. Oh yeah, oh shit, yeah, he do be hitting the gritty. My mistake. As a boomer, I just forgot. We know what gritty is. We're young and hip.
No caps on the
on God.
on what up, dog?
This is up, dog.
I don't get it.
Yeah, up, dog.
Huh?
I'm not doing this. I don't have it in me. I have the heart or soul that it takes to do this.
Come on, Mary, you have the heart of a champion. Go for it.
Let's find out if I did already do the thing. Mary's an idiot.
Heart of a champion.
I'm silly. I'm silly. I'm sorry, okay? We're gonna progress, I promise. There will be progression. There will be blood, but there will also be progression. I thought that when I died, the save point didn't count.
Well, that's nice.
It's still. Oh!
Yeah, hop on in.
I don't need to, I can run faster. Just frightening. That's all. You know, I might do the security office after I've done Plaza Pasta. If I can.
I think I've got about 30 more minutes in me.
That sounds fair. I will have to continue, but that is cool. Okay, back to where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah.
Who's chasing me? I can't even run. Bruh.
Just a silly,
Monty?
just a silly robot.
Oh, boy. Let me in here.
I love Monty.
Who don't love them?
I don't. Monty Python, the Flying Circus.
Monty the Gator. The punk alligator man.
Blast is a high-intensity space combat simulation. Suit up and save the universe as you blast everything with high-tech laser effects.
Gator, got him.
Beat the superstar
alligator, potatoes.
Rotate.
Potatoes.
Wait.
Boil them,
I
mash
think
them,
that
put them
was
in a stew.
God damn it! I saw a meme the other day that was like, you say the word potatoes anywhere near someone who's seen Lord of the Rings and immediately mash and bake and put them in a stew, like, immediately. It's like something in your coding.
Dude, the Lord of the Rings is really good.
I'm not disagreeing, I just think it's hilarious. Right, let me actually save for a change, and I'll do laser tag before I deal with the stupid, security officer.
Recruits, and from the looks of you, the orange/blue team hasn't got a chance. Soon you will be fighting for your lives.
Teabagging, let's go!
But
You slurping?
I am here
Huh?
to tell you how to play.
You slurping?
No.
Slurp?
There are 2
Oh,
rules you have to follow
no,
as
it's gone
players.
now.
Rule number 1.
Oh, I'm
no
sorry.
running, no climbing.
That's okay.
No jumping.
Hang on a
I hope the
second.
one day you're able to get more.
I might be. Hang on a
No
second.
shooting blasters in.
How old are you, Mega? Mega, this is meant to be an 18+ stream.
Blindness or fully permanent paralysis. If you are flashed in the eyes, immediately flush your eyes with soap and water, then blink repeatedly until vision is restored. Rule number 2.
Dude, this is so dope. I'm gonna get more.
Do you want to hear the rules?
Yeah, let's go!
Warning.
Don't talk about that. Well, I'm gonna need to keep my eye on it because my community is an 18+
You
one.
need to grab the helmet and his blaster.
This way.
See, now, I want this to be an honest-to-God first-person shooter with this aesthetic.
It has an element of it. Ooh, here we go.
Do you know what I mean, though?
FPS going. Welcome in. Thank you for the follow. How's it going? I do. There is sort of an element of FPS as long as we have this gun.
Oh, new follow. Okay, I'm ready.
I can't do my intro every single time. You are welcome to do your harmonic intro.
Hi, welcome in. She is the Mary Hatter. She is a Mercury-infused Victorian hat
No,
making
listen. Because listen. I'm gonna post these on YouTube. If there's like every 5 minutes I do the intro, it's gonna be
No,
silly.
I got you. Here's the harmonica part. Ready?
Welcome in. Sorry, I tried unmuting my mic like 3 times for that to work. Welcome in. Okay, everything's lagging because of that stupid VHS filter. That's fun. Okay, I gotta defend.
I mean, it's cool, but it ain't worth lag.
Hey.
Get that robot.
Right, I wish I could just turn it off. Okay, I got 20 seconds.
Thank you.
Can I get a reload, please? But yeah, howdy. I hope you're having a good Sunday. Get out of here. Get over here.
Get over here.
Flag successfully captured. Chica's around. There she is. I'm gonna go this way, and I'm gonna get some more ammunition. I still hear her. I don't like that I still hear her. So I'm gonna go over here instead. Yeah, blah.
Da, 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 da.
Okay. Oh, hey, ma'am. Okay, that should be fine. Nowhere. You're imagining it. Is this the one I already captured? Yes. This is the one I'm going for. What were you giggling about? What? What? You find another robot joke?
I just thought it might be a good time. I was, hey, Mary, you know, I was bored recently, and so I made a robot that distributes herbs.
Go on.
It helps me pass the time.
What is my purpose? You pass time. Oh my god. It does sound like she's fucking cussing you out. That's what happens when you shoot her. Where is the thing? I know there's one upstairs. I just can't remember where. Can you stop? I can't remember the other ones. One near here. Go away. Why do you like this as a person? And why am I so easily lost? I don't get the joke. Thyme is a type of herb. Where's this stupid? Where is it? Where is it?
Thyme.
Yeah.
Thyme. Often kept in the cupboard,
Maybe
Mary.
both of them were upstairs. Or the pantry.
Pantry.
Here's one.
Yay, the flag!
I'm just, like, blowing these things up. They're just being destroyed.
Oh!
Look at this.
Oh!
This is property damage, I think.
Doesn't seem safe. Doesn't seem safe.
Oh, 30 points! Okay.
Oh!
Final one.
Too easy, too easy.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's a
sir!
great point, but my question is where? Okay, so we dealt with that one. They run around here. Maybe go down here. Perhaps. How can we playing laser tag at like 3:30 in the morning? It's the only way we can survive.
I've done that before.
That does sound like a lot of fun.
So fun.
Is there like a light area? Okay, I would assume it's in this red area. That's just my guess.
When I was a very young, a young bear cub, went on.
Take you into the city.
No.
I was just curious.
No.
Just check.
Anyway, so like, you know, you've heard of these church lock-ins, and you know, you pretty much just stay in the church all night long and hang out. But we did one of those, but it was at the local arcade that was a lot like this place, all night long.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
All night long, and the laser tag in there was at a giant bouncy like sci-fi castle.
Ooh.
They had bumper
Dude, that sounds
cars.
like an absolute riot.
They had a giant miniature golf castle.
What a car! Oh my god, I want to do that. That sounds
Yeah.
incredible.
Oh, the place closed
We
down.
don't have cool shit like this here.
This is in the era of Mortal Kombat 2. It was incredible.
Oh, what's that? Let's go.
Sorry, I'm just taking every opportunity this stream to make you jealous that I'm not even doing it on purpose.
Yes, you did. Dox yourself.
Sure. It's gone now. It was a place called Grand Slam.
Well done,
and there-
superstar. You won the Phaser Blaster.
Phaser Blaster, let's go!
Yeah, Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I mean, there's another place that's pretty good. It's got a rock climbing wall, but it's smaller, and their miniature golf course isn't as good. That opened nearby, but I will never forget Grand Slam, dude.
No, that is reasonable. So many really fucking awesome places shut down. It's devastating. A devastating reality.
They had, like, you know that thing you were crawling through with the ball pit and the slides? They had one. By the
Oh, I missed that from my youth.
by the 6-player X-Men arcade cabinet.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Also, thank you for the positive affirmations, Def Chan. We took those.
I choose to feel happy. I choose to feel happy.
What have I done? How have I done? What have I done? Why have I done?
You don't like Snoop Dogg?
I love Snoop Dogg. Justify the Twilight Saga is the best redeem. One day you'll learn.
Yes, you say that.
Freddy, that rabbit lady.
There we go. Hi, how's your deal stream? But it's been a lot of fun, but we're going to space now, sweet dear.
No, it's not. We're not.
Yes.
No.
We're going up. We're going up.
Ooh. Why? Oh. Okay. No. Okay. Down.
Okay,
Safe for down. Safe for down. Safe for down.
We're down. The stream has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for asking. I hope you've been doing well today. Thank you for the hydrate. Just one moment. Why did I run all this way? This is not where I meant to go. I got so distracted with the ascension that I forgot I meant to go this way. Stab only.
Ascent these nuts to your face.
Oh, got him. Fanny. Wait, then where do I go? I don't think it's this way. Maybe I just go back. I think now that I have the blaster, I can just go back. I just came here for fun. Just to explore the lore.
Yeah, dude, fast blast them.
Well, there's nothing I can Fazer blast yet, but I'll show you when I can.
There's robots everywhere. Just give them the blast.
You gotta find them first.
Oh yeah, that's just figure. You get armed and now they hide.
Exactly. They realize my true potential. Here we go. Down.
Get down, get down.
There we go. This way.
Oh, I hear one. Give them the.
They're not really there.
Give them the fast.
They're like down.
Business.
She's down. It's Chica and she's downstairs.
Okay.
Oh hey, by the way, check this out.
Okay.
We've got L chips, tortilla style tortilla chips.
Okay.
And then we've got meat bites.
Ooh.
There's another potato chip somewhere that's called disappointment flavored or something.
You know, when I read L chips and I saw the apostrophe, I'm like, oh, what do you mean L chips? What? But then actually, they did justify it at the bottom. They got me.
Yeah.
They got me. Good job.
Okay. Oh, wrong way. God damn it, these doors.
Well, I can hear that you're a little bitch.
Why do all the doors look the same?
I don't know why.
I haven't decided yet. I'll tell you when I do. There we go. Now I can leave. Bow, ba-dow, ba-dow, bow. I also must go into the security office. Ah! Wait, how did they all miss? How did every...
Woo!
What?
Yeah, baby! My ninja skills. I
I'm
deflected
sorry.
them. I protected myself.
how the-
from something. Ah ha ha!
But you had to use your party pass.
What's up now?
Yeah, how you doing, Ginger?
I am sure you will find something that will
Office time. Where is the office? This way. Oh, it's behind this giant sign. L chips plus ratio plus not a superstar plus touch grass plus Fazer blasted. Get absolutely Fazer blasted, bro. In pain but made steak Alfredo. Why are you in pain? Thank you for the throw. What happened? I hope you're doing okay. And I'm glad to hear you got steak Alfredo. I hope it was delicious. Is that everything I need here? I think so. Let's check.
Wow.
I now have 10 points. Well, you spent them well. Did I? Yeah, okay. What? What's up?
Nothing.
You said
Nah, it's nothing.
Oh.
Nothing.
Buggy.
Nothing. Nothing.
Hey.
Ah! Nothing.
Why do you keep saying nothing?
Fast blasted! Fast blasted!
I can, but I need to save first. Remember the thing I found out a few weeks back? Turns out I'm allergic to the meds they had me on. No! I'm so sorry. Oh, Ginger, that sucks. I really hope that I hope that fixes, like, I hope you get it sorted out soon, because that's just rough. That was supposed to fix the problem, not... Oh, get away from me. Not enhance it. Dude, stop hurting me. One of my mods timed me out because I threw too many things at them. See, that's why you put it on a cooldown, so no one can abuse it.
No, everything's fun. Don't ruin this for me, dude. Shut up.
Did you know that 75% of cases of CPR end in failure? German Snapple facts!
Can't bring me down. Jamming too hard.
This is a jam, to be honest. We have a gun! Can I use it, though? How do I use... How do I get it?
Oh, there you go. Oh, no.
Wait, but...
Mary, did you lose... Did you lose our
Nope,
gun?
No.
Oh! This is why he turns evil.
He doesn't turn evil!
Yeah, I've seen the prequels.
These aren't...
The sequels. The originals.
No, these aren't... This is not... This is the sequel.
Freddy's a bad bear. It's on record.
Where the fuck am I meant to go again? I've forgotten. Find the mystery mix in Bonnie Bolt. Find out how to... Find out how to... Okay. Easy. I remember that.
Alright.
I don't know why Gregory never thought to just beat up the animatronics with Freddy. He would do it. Yeah, is he stupid? He just use the other animatronics, dude. Duh. Right. I need to go back up to... Oh, back down to the loading dock, I believe. Or back down to, like, the kitchen area.
Did you know that if you mix the letters up in the word pizza, it spells pizzazz?
Oh, fancy.
Yeah.
I don't know why fancy has become, like, the thing I've been saying. Fancy and iconic. Freddy, use faster uppercut! Dude, I wish this was a mecha fighting game. Can you imagine?
I've got a few of those.
But none of them are Five Nights at Freddy's.
That's true.
Yeah, I picked Big Zam.
I heard something. Did you hear something?
Yeah, it was, it's this guy.
Oh, they're cute. Okay.
They shuffle. Yeah, right?
Mary.
But look, they spin! Spin!
It's so cute the way they scream in pain.
It's adorable! Here, get stuff. Brutality, Freddy wins. I got a Freddy face shirt! Okay, maybe I want this one.
I'd wear that.
Yeah, it's so cute. One of these rooms has a thing in it, I think. Furious Rage is a sideswipe game. You get to beat up people. Ooh, I want to find the one that Game Grumps played for like Big Zam. That looked like a lot of fun. Better employees. Oh, I'm curious. What is the workplace politics? Last week it was Jenkins forgetting to replace the urinal cakes after a single use. Yesterday it was Elsa for showing up to work early. Today it's me because Lily H asked for chicken Alfredo. I said we don't make that here. Her father, the guy looked like Sasquatch by the way, demanded to speak to my manager. I got Dennis. Dennis asks me why I don't just get her what she wants. I say we don't have chicken Alfredo. Dennis fires me on the spot. Joke's on him though. Turns out our new staff bots, the better employees, aren't programmed to make chicken Alfredo, so HQ fired him for firing me.
Yay!
Happy endings all around. More stuff I can do? Yes. Piñata.
Do any of these actually scare you?
What the... Oh, like, do the boxes have anything actually scary in them?
Yes.
No, but that would be really cool.
I mean...
And I feel like they missed an opportunity with that.
It's just so on brand.
It would be really funny. I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't go with that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna worry too much about the upgrades and stuff until the end game for now, because Freddy's got those eyes that can like show you where everything is. But thank you. Imagine stuffing Johnny in an animatronic suit. It would be perfect. Let's groove.
I love this song and Five Nights at Freddy's on Friday, Sunday. Lots of fun. I'm safe in the elevator.
Every single day of the week, all of the time. 24-hour Freddy stream all of the time, every day.
That was a great song.
Yeah. Woman's literally right next to you. That's my bad. I will have a look for that later on, but for now I'm just gonna go through with the story more than anything.
Yeah, Meg, I gotta let you know a little secret about us is efficiency is never, ever on the docket.
We out here for a good time. We're out here for a long time, not a good time. Okay, this way. I've got to go and look at the trash compactor, I believe. And just like be like, oh look, that's how I do the thing. And then I have to go get the stupid mix. Or maybe I had to get the mix first. Whatever, let me go look at the trash.
Turns on our stream.
How dare you! Okay, this is the thing I need to look at. Okay, I need to push her in here, so now that I've looked at it, I just want to make sure.
Okay.
Now I know where the mix is, which is way upstairs. I just want to... And I forgot about this thing. Because every time I tried to come over here, Chica attacked me.
I love how enthusiastic those robots are. Yeah. Yeah. Was that Chica?
Yeah.
Dude, kill her!
Eh.
What?
I can't.
What do you mean?
It's not that simple. I went the wrong way, bro.
You have a laser gun, dude.
Yeah, but I can't murder her.
Yeah, I mean, you can, exactly. You can break her. She's a robot.
Bye.
That's right. The headshots not like do
Excuse
more
me?
damage.
No, they do not. Back upstairs we go.
Yay!
Exit! Longer stream more adds more money. I'll see you. No, no. Ah!
Dr. Evil. Yes, that's true.
Hi, I like money.
Did you just run through the... Okay, those weren't bars. Those were like little plastic thingies.
These nuts.
Huh?
Gotti.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
Try it again. Okay, I'll say the thing you said I should say. What is the thing I should say?
No, no, I don't. It's fine. We don't gotta talk about it.
Okay.
Touch me.
I'll hang on a second.
I don't remember where the stupid elevator is.
Hey, why did C and B not want to hang out with D?
There it is. Because D's nuts.
Yay! I set you up. Check it out. You're welcome. I helped.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
What do you mean?
I don't get it!
Okay. Okay. It's okay.
Ooh, delicious! Carbonated pepperoni with a hint of cheese.
Yeah, masking the loading screen with a really cool tune. Flying
People don't
through
just
the
want to jam out
air.
to the sick menu music.
Yeah, I got my arms out and I'm flying, man.
Yeah. Back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity.
Whoop!
Whoop! There goes gravity.
There goes gravity.
Whoop! There goes the rabbit. He tripped. He's so mad.
Everything ends up on the ceiling. Oh, there goes gravity.
I was just imagining fucking the cover of like Eminem, but with whoop, there goes gravity. Whoop, it's so mad pretty. Whoop, whoop, they won't have it.
Excuse me, sorry about that.
Stupid. Right, I gotta go to Boney Bowl, which is over there. I probably should have saved, but
Yeah.
what even is efficiency?
Small
Do I need
apartment,
a vent again?
I think.
Boom. Oh no, I think I got the bowling ticket already. Question mark, potentially. Can I, please? I'm sorry?
There goes gravity.
What?
All right. Well, something's wrong. There you go. That's fair. Look away. Look away, Mega. Your waifu is having an issue.
Well,
Gregory, are you certain you have
okay.
seen the dancing rabbit lady? I believe you. if you
My
say
family
you
is in
have.
town, so I'm gonna be out of town, so I'm gonna be lurking. We better hope you see a wolf for me anyway. Yeah, no, you didn't. No. But yeah, Squirtle, I hope you enjoy your time with your family. I hope you guys have a great time. Thank you for the hydrate.
Love you, Squiddle, buddy.
Squirtle is a fantastic mod and a lovely friend, another VTuber. I strongly recommend you go and check him out. He is so dope. I'm gonna give you a shout out in case you don't do it for yourself because I know you might not. I don't know if I could trust you to do it. There we go. I can trust Squirtle to shout out at everyone except for himself.
Right. Well, that would feel a little bit weird.
Don't worry, she can teleport. It's fine. They're all fine. This seems fair, you know.
Mm.
Oh, good. More of those dudes that I love so much. The endoskeleton mins.
If you could have a skeleton made of metal, but it's just like theirs, would you do it?
I don't like surgery.
No, but I mean, just like, boom, it's done.
Why though? What?
Just answer the question.
Oh,
yes
hey.
or no.
I don't think so.
See, I would say yes, because if you think about it, right? Like, if you get into a car accident, boom, you know what? It's not as bad as it could be, you know?
I know, but I just don't know if I could make that.
I do not come up here anymore.
I did bring him up here just to upset him. Bonnie, the guy, that guy up there, the little bunny man.
Mary, why are you being mean to the nice robots?
It's lore! Look, he's crying.
You just said you brought him up here to make him sad.
But it's for the lore!
It's not for the lore! You're a lunatic! You must be stopped!
Anyway, time to kill one of the other robots.
Like, several of them need that, yeah, but he's a nice... Is it because he's a bear?
This isn't about you.
Is this because he's a bear? I'm asking about him.
Not everything's about you.
It's about Freddy. I didn't say my name once.
Gotta shoot the crying robots. Gotta treat them. Gotta teach them how to manage their emotions. I thought they said golden mommy. I was like,
Doesn't look like a... Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go murder Chica now.
Yeah. Yeah, do that.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Leave Sweet Boy alone. He's Sweet Boy.
Hi, help me, buddy. I'm sorry I shot you. I need some help.
Yeah. We must take care of Sweet Boy.
Where are they? They're like clipping through the walls! The endos show up, but for some reason they're not attacking me, so I'm just gonna go ahead and take that as a victory and leave.
This game looks like I might need an old restart of Rooney.
Oh, hey!
It's getting a little weird in ways I don't think it's supposed to.
That's fine. I've been saving different slots.
Okay.
I have plenty of backups.
Can we take this elevator to safety, please?
Yes, that's what we're on our way to do. We just get there and Roxy's face is just in it again.
What are you doing? Stop it!
Time, dude.
Stop it! What? I'm trying to jam out, and then all I hear is horrible things. What am I hearing?
I'm genuinely surprised that they didn't have like a feature in there where if you shoot Freddy like 10 times in a row, he just like attacks. It would have been a really it would have made for good YouTube shorts.
Yeah, or next time you get into a stomach, it's a blender.
Okay, right now I need to use the Monty Mystery Mix in the kitchen.
Well, you know what I gotta do right now?
What?
I gotta go.
Oh, really? You don't want to see Chica get killed?
If it's about to happen, then yeah, I'll chill for...
It's about to happen.
Okay, well then, yeah, 1000%.
Because I was thinking about, heading it off after that anyways.
Oh, then I'll...
Chica's
Okay.
done, we can pick it up. We can pick it up on next Sunday.
Oh, heck yeah, if you're getting set to split, then I'll wait.
Yeah, and on Monday, I'm going to be doing My Friendly Neighborhood, which I'm very much looking forward to. I haven't played any of it yet, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Now Freddy can say I just put my newborn son into a blender. What? Freddy's a monster.
You've been shooting him!
Yeah, and now we know why.
Because he'll stop you?
Because he'll put his children in the blender. He has to be stopped. Do you want me to do something about that?
Oh.
Sorry, I'm just saving in case I die. Sailor, you've played it? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So that's tomorrow's game. And on Wednesday, I think a friend of mine might have plans on Wednesday, so I might be joining them. I'm not 100% sure yet. That is something I am currently looking into. And then on Friday, we're not going to be doing Friday night DVD for a while, because it's Halloween, and even though DVD is horror game, it's not that scary. Yeah, even though it's horror themed, it's not that scary. So I think we're going to be switching over to Phasmophobia, Demonologist, and Devour for those days.
Who you talk?
So on both you and chat. Wait, are you talking to me or Amanda?
I hear no. I hear you now. Everything locked up.
Okay.
I couldn't hear you speak. It was crazy, but it's good now.
I was saying I was speaking to both you and chat, but basically saying like our game will be different on Fridays because of the whole horror aspect of Halloween. And then after Halloween, we'll probably go back to Dubada and to something.
Yeah. I mean, I love our Fridays because of how chill they are too. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, you know, I'm not super feeling Phasmo. Let's switch to Demonologist or even DBD or what. Absolutely ever. That's the magic of Fridays. Anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mega Echo. We'll get it next year, I promise. We gotta kill Chica. I've got a one-track mind. I can smell blood in the water, and I've got to strike now. I gotta do it.
This has become a torture stream for Mega.
Why did it freeze again?
The longer I'm in this elevator, the more zen I become.
I became small, apparently.
Became.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You've always been small, Mary.
Oh, look who's talking!
Didn't we just say that not everything is about me? Did you not just say that? Is your memory short too?
How convenient! Oh, I just walked past one. 1 second. Wait, just walked past one. I'll go for that one, 100%. Ready upgrade? Oh no, I thought you. Oh, alright, I thought you meant down here as well. I'll get it next time, 100%, 100%. But now we gotta do murder. We have to do crimes. Is she out there? I think she's through there, so I'm gonna go this way.
Wrecker.
How'd they know her? My game froze. I deserve this. Hey, how do I... Let me put it in. The thing came up for a second. The prompt came up. Let me... Please? Please? How do I... Please? Here we go.
Mary, how does Chica... Wait, hang on. There it is. How does Chica like her steaks prepared?
How?
Weld on.
Huh?
Well done. That's what you can have a steak made. Weld on.
Oh,
you see, yeah. Do 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 do.
I don't understand.
Okay, so there's this thing that comes from cows, and it's called steak. And there's
Yeah, no, I know that one.
Okay. A way that you can cook a steak is well done.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm aware of that part.
So there's this thing you can do to metal, and it's called welding.
Yes.
And
is it because she's a robot?
Yes.
Okay. I liked it. 5 out of 10.
You did?
5 out of 10.
I'll take it.
No, not like this. Not like this.
Okay. All right. Nope.
What the fuck you gonna do about it?
Killer.
It is time. Treasure.
Oh. You should have moved that.
Yeah, Gregory's not. Yeah, I know. I'm a sim.
Oh. Good thing Chica's
Street
not too
smiles.
right. Wow, she held up better than I expected.
Get out of here, bitch.
Dead. It falls into a giant pile of metal.
That was odd. Okay, let me grab Chica's voice box and then I will save.
That's a great ending point. Good job.
Yeah, right? Killed one of them.
How many did
How
go
does
with
Gregory
that?
push a 300-pound robot? You don't know how much he's been. You don't know how much he's been benching. What do you ask, sir?
How many are left? 4?
2.
Oh, really?
2.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
2 robots.
So the alligator and the fox mommy that the internet enjoys.
Yes. And there's sort of extra stuff towards the end that we'll be also doing.
Yeah, I thought there was like a fox dude who's a pirate, but other games, yeah.
No, unfortunately, he is not in this. That is a little bit sad, to be honest. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging out, everybody. I really appreciate it. She's a wolf, Zetia! No, he's talking about Foxy. Like Pirate Foxy, not Roxanne.
Did I say?
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'm sorry.
No, you were talking about you
go.
You
go. Yeah. Sorry.
You know what you mean. Yeah. Let me have a quick scooch around and see what's about today. Let's find out. everything's slow now.
Death, would you say you're in love with Roxy? Don't ruin this. Don't ruin this for me, Mary. I swear to God.
Oh my god! Everyone should. Ooh, hold on. Let me.
Did you feel a spark?
Okay, this is super important. I'm gonna send everybody over to my friend Salamander. She is not used to like larger raids, so please be cool, please be chill, please be very sweet to her. Please say hello, please drop her a follow if you can. Just be very chill, be very nice, and make sure that you use our raid messages. I will give her a raid. I hope I don't like freak her out with this.
Red!
I know she's a little bit. Red's a little nervous about streaming, so I don't ever want to like send a bunch of people over and like terrify her. And I feel like I should have asked first.
No. Red will love it. It's a great surprise. It's lovely.
Okay, and in that case, I'll also say if it was a problem, I will tell her how to remove the raid command. So yeah, new raid messages. So people who are following me can use Merry Raid. I'll have to retype these out for my bots. So Merry Raid for people who are following me. And for people who are subscribed to me, you can use... Oh wait, hold on. I guess it could be the same thing all of the time. Okay, never mind then. Everyone can use Merry Raid with the hearts because I forgot that was a follower emote. But yeah, second one is the correct raid message. Thank you so much everybody for stopping by, and we will be back on Monday at around the same time. Peace out.
Woo! Bye bye.